Everyone thinks they've already heard every psychology fact worth knowing. But the mind is endless. Its quirks, its shortcuts, its secret rules. They keep surprising even scientists. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the truths about how your brain really works. 1. Music changes taste perception. When upbeat, fast music plays, people rate food as sweeter and more enjoyable. When darker, slower music plays, the same food feels bitterer. Your tongue doesn't change, your brain does. Flavor isn't just chemistry, it's emotion set to sound. 2. People who sleep less often misread emotions. Sleep deprivation reduces the brain's ability to interpret facial cues. A tired mind mistakes neutral expressions as anger or sadness. That's why conflict erupts faster when you're exhausted. Your perception is tilted toward threat. 3. Writing by hand boosts learning better than typing. When you write, your brain processes the information through motor movement, spatial mapping, and language all at once. Typing skips those layers. The slower act of handwriting actually cements ideas deeper into memory. 4. Fear spreads faster than calm. If one person in a group panics, their tone, gestures, and pace infect others in seconds. But calmness takes longer to ripple through. Evolution favored alarm because danger missed could mean death. That's why mobs spiral faster than they stabilize. 5. People who talk to themselves in third person regulate emotions better. Saying, "You'll be okay," instead of "I'll be okay," creates distance between the self and the stress. It tricks the brain into feeling like you're coaching a friend, and the brain listens more. Detachment brings control. 6. Red clothing makes people appear more attractive. From ancient rituals to modern dating, the color red signals fertility, passion, and dominance. Experiments show men and women alike rate red-clad strangers as more desirable. Attraction is not always about looks. It's about signals coded in color. 7. People remember unfinished conversations longer. When a discussion ends abruptly, whether it's an argument or a mystery, it lingers in the brain like a dangling thread. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Closure heals memory. The lack of it keeps wounds open. 8. Loneliness distorts time. Isolated people report time feeling slower, days dragging, hours stretching. Social contact speeds time's rhythm. Without it, the clock becomes an enemy. Loneliness is not just emotional. It alters how you experience existence. 9. Eye movements reveal memory retrieval. When someone looks up and left, they're often accessing real memories. When they look up and right, the brain may be constructing something imagined. It's not perfect, but the eyes often betray whether the mind is recalling or inventing. 10. People who delay gratification succeed more often. The famous marshmallow test proved it. Children who resisted a small treat for the promise of a bigger one later had better outcomes in life. The brain that learns patience learns power. Discipline is delayed joy. 11. People copy accents when they like someone. You might not notice it, but when you feel connected to a person, your speech subtly shifts toward theirs. It's the brain's unconscious attempt to build trust. Mimicking sound is like saying, "We're the same. You can trust me." 12. Stress can make you catch colds faster. When the body lives in fight or flight mode too long, the immune system shuts down non-urgent defenses. That's why students often get sick after exams, and why burnout literally makes people physically weak. Stress doesn't just live in the mind, it invades the body. 13. People walk slower when they're sad. Even without words, emotion seeps into movement. Shoulders slump, pace drops, arms swing less. A sad body drags time itself. And the reverse is true. Forcing yourself to walk energetically can trick the brain into lifting mood. 14. Smiling while speaking makes your voice sound warmer. Even over the phone, listeners can hear a smile. Muscles in the face shift tone resonance, giving your words friendliness that the ear instantly detects. The body and voice are linked more tightly than we realize. 15. People forget 80% of new information within 24 hours. Unless it's reviewed, repeated, or emotionally charged, the brain discards quickly. It saves energy by keeping only what feels urgent. That's why teaching, journaling, or explaining something to others cements knowledge. Review is survival for memory. 16. People judge trustworthiness in less than 1 second. Before a word is spoken, your brain scans a stranger's face, posture, and eyes. In a blink, it decides safe or unsafe. Logic may refine later, but instinct rules first contact. Snap judgments aren't always right, but they're ancient. 17. Silence in negotiation is power. When one side pauses after a statement, the other often rushes to fill the gap, revealing more than they intended. The discomfort of silence makes people over-explain, over-offer, or over-promise. Quiet isn't empty, it's leverage. People mimic yawns because of empathy. When someone yawns, mirror neurons trigger yours. The stronger your empathy, the more likely you'll catch it. That's why yawning spreads in groups. It's biology whispering, "We're in this together." 19. Time feels shorter when you're busy. When tasks fill your day, the brain compresses the hours. But when you're idle, time stretches painfully. That's why vacations feel like they fly by, while waiting in line feels endless. Perception of time is ruled less by clocks, more by attention. 20. People remember emotionally negative experiences more clearly. It's survival. The brain marks danger with neon ink so you don't repeat it. That's why embarrassments, heartbreaks, and failures stick longer than casual joys. Pain is memory's teacher. 21. People nod along more when music is playing. Background rhythm primes the body to move. Add a steady beat to conversation, and agreement subtly rises. Music doesn't just affect mood, it tilts decisions. 22. People crave patterns, even in chaos. From cloud shapes to lottery numbers, the brain desperately looks for order. It's why we see faces in objects or signs in randomness. Pattern seeking kept us alive in nature, but it also tricks us into superstition. 23. People in groups shout louder than alone. It's called social amplification. Being surrounded makes you feel less individually responsible, so your brain unleashes more volume, more risk, more boldness. Crowds make us bigger than we are, and sometimes worse. 24. People remember smells from childhood more vividly than recent ones. Because the olfactory system develops early, scents etched young last decades. One whiff of your grandmother's kitchen can collapse time in an instant. Smell is the most stubborn of memories. 25. Fear can spread through smell. Sweat produced under stress contains chemical signals that others unconsciously detect. Smelling fear, even without realizing it, can raise another person's anxiety. Emotions can be contagious, molecule by molecule. 26. People buy more when stores smell like vanilla. Scent marketing is powerful. Warm, sweet smells increase feelings of comfort and generosity. It's why malls and hotels carefully control aromas. You think you're choosing, but your nose is guiding. 27. People underestimate how much others think about them. We assume our impact is small. Yet studies show that people recall casual encounters, kind words, or rude remarks for years. You linger longer in minds than you realize. 28. People walking side by side naturally match pace. It's unconscious synchronization. The brain seeks alignment in movement, creating harmony even without words. Soldiers marching in step isn't just training, it's instinct amplified. 29. People learn faster through failure than success. Every mistake forces the brain to rewire. Success feels good, but failure teaches more. Pain is coded as information. The stumble is often the shortcut to mastery. 30. People are more generous when observed. Even the illusion of being watched, a drawing of eyes on a wall, raises honesty and charity. The brain evolved under constant tribal observation, and it still behaves better when it thinks someone sees. 31. People spend more when paying with cards instead of cash. Handing over physical money activates the brain's pain centers, but swiping a card bypasses that sting. That's why you think less about price when using plastic. The closer money feels, the heavier it weighs. 32. People laugh more when others are around. Even jokes we find mildly funny spark louder laughter in groups. Laughter is less about humor and more about bonding. It's the brain saying, I belong here. 33. People eat more when watching TV. Distraction lowers awareness of portions. Your brain focuses on the screen and stops sending fullness signals on time. Entertainment numbs hunger's brakes. 34. People judge intelligence by eye contact and tone more than by actual words. A confident stare and steady rhythm persuade the brain of brilliance, even if the content is ordinary. We mistake delivery for depth. 35. Multilingual people switch personalities slightly between languages. Vocabulary carries culture, emotion, rhythm. Speaking another tongue can shift confidence, humor, even body language. The brain isn't one voice, it's many. 36. People remember emotionally embarrassing moments clearer than achievements. Falling in public, misspeaking, being rejected. These memories burn brighter than victories. Shame brands deeper than pride. 37. People under stress notice fewer details. Adrenaline narrows focus on survival cues. That's why in emergencies, witnesses recall the big picture, but miss specifics. Stress compresses perception. 8. People judge strangers' trustworthiness more from eyebrows than smiles. Studies reveal eyebrow shape and expression affect perceived honesty more than mouths do. The smallest facial feature can carry the heaviest weight. 39. People crave closure even in fiction. An unfinished story gnaws at the mind. That's why cliffhangers feel unbearable. The brain longs for endings, even to events that never really happened. 40. People are more likely to cheat when they think no one is harmed. Rationalization silences guilt. If consequences seem invisible, the brain paints dishonesty as harmless. Morality bends where empathy fades. 41. People feel safer in higher places. From tree branches to skyscraper balconies, elevation sparks a sense of control. The brain still carries instincts from ancestors who scanned predators from above. 42. People misjudge speed based on size. Larger objects appear slower than smaller ones moving at the same pace. That's why big cars look like they drift calmly, while motorcycles seem dangerously fast. Perception cheats physics. 3. People's handwriting slants more when they're emotional. Anger, excitement, stress, all tilt the pen differently. Paper becomes a map of the nervous system. Even without words, emotion bleeds onto the page. 44. People overeat when food variety is high. The brain gets bored with sameness and shuts down appetite. But introduce multiple flavors, colors, textures, and fullness delays. Buffets exploit this ancient quirk. 45. People recall happy memories better when the sun is out. Light boosts serotonin, which biases memory toward positivity. Sunshine doesn't just brighten the day, it brightens the past. 46. People imagine the future using the same brain regions as memory. The hippocampus doesn't distinguish much between remembering and predicting. Planning is simply memory flipped forward. The future is recycled past. 47. People gesture more when speaking about abstract ideas. Hands carve the invisible into shape. Movement helps the brain translate complex thoughts into simpler signals. Gesture is thought's shadow. 48. People in crowds lose self-awareness. The larger the group, the more identity blurs. Individual responsibility dissolves, replaced by collective will. That's why riots ignite so quickly. I disappears into we. 49. People are more persuasive when they repeat a message 3 times. The brain mistakes repetition for truth. Familiarity feels safe, even if it's false. Marketing, propaganda, even personal arguments exploit this quirk. 50. People seek symmetry instinctively. Faces, objects, designs. Symmetry signals health, safety, beauty. Even newborns stare longer at symmetrical shapes. The brain loves balance because imbalance once meant disease or danger. Everyone thinks they know why people act the way they do. But the truth is, the mind plays by hidden rules. Before we go deeper, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss the kind of psychology facts that change how you see people. 1. Talking to yourself isn't madness, it's mastery. When you verbalize your thoughts, your brain doesn't dismiss it as background noise. It treats your words as commands. That's why world-class athletes mutter to themselves before a critical move, or surgeons whisper through each step of a procedure. It's not insecurity, it's the brain sharpening focus in real time. You're both the coach and the player when you speak out loud. 2. Messy handwriting hides a fast mind. People often judge scribbles as carelessness, but in reality, it's usually thought outrunning the body. The hand simply can't keep up with the storm of ideas rushing forward. What looks like chaos on paper is actually proof of motion inside the brain. A messy page often belongs to someone whose mind won't wait for ink to catch up. 3. Negative words hit harder than positive ones. An insult lingers longer than a compliment. That's not weakness, it's evolution. For thousands of years, survival meant scanning for threats before pleasures. Missing a kind word never killed anyone, but ignoring danger could. That's why a single harsh comment sticks in your mind long after praise fades. 4. Multitasking lowers your IQ temporarily. People wear multitasking like a badge of honor, but the science says otherwise. Each time you switch tasks, your brain must reboot. The result? A temporary drop in sharpness, equivalent to pulling an all-nighter. Far from being efficient, juggling tasks leaks focus and drains your mental energy faster than you realize. 5. Doodling is memory's secret ally. When someone idly draws shapes during a meeting, it's not distraction, it's engagement. The simple act of keeping the hand busy frees mental space. It anchors attention so the brain can absorb more detail. That's why doodlers often recall conversations better than those who sit perfectly still. Scribbles, it turns out, are silent tools of memory. 6. Your heartbeat can trick your brain into thinking it's love. The rush of adrenaline feels almost identical whether it comes from fear, exercise, or attraction. That's why someone you meet on a roller coaster can suddenly feel magnetic. The pounding in your chest fools your mind into attaching emotion to the nearest face. Sometimes love isn't in the heart, it's in the pulse. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's silent confession. When you like someone, you subconsciously copy them. Crossed legs, a tilted head, folded arms, it's rapport without a word spoken. Your brain does it to build connection, to signal safety. It's as if your body whispers, "I feel close to you. I'm with you." Quiet people notice what others miss, while talkers fill the air. The silent ones are reading faces, gestures, and hidden signals. Their stillness is not emptiness, it's observation. Silence sharpens their senses, allowing them to catch truths that race past everyone else. The quiet ones often see the most. 9. Rejection hurts like a bruise. When someone ignores you or shuts you out, your brain lights up the same regions it does for physical pain. To the mind, being excluded is as real a wound as a cut. That's why loneliness can feel crushing. It isn't just in your head, it's survival circuitry screaming for connection. 10. The average person lies 1 to 2 times a day. Most lies aren't evil schemes, they're small shields. "I'm fine. I'll be there in 5. They're fragile attempts at peace, not betrayal. The truth is, lying is less about deception and more about smoothing over life's sharp edges. 11. Chewing gum sharpens the mind. That small, mindless chew boosts blood flow to the brain. It makes recall quicker, focus sharper. That's why students before exams or soldiers in the field quietly use it. The rhythm of chewing becomes the rhythm of thought. 12. Calm people in chaos were often forged by fire. What looks like composure can actually be survival learned young. People who grew up under stress sometimes carry a strange stillness when storms hit. Their nervous systems already know the battlefield. Peace, for them, was never given. It was trained. 13. Exhaustion can spark creativity. When you're slightly tired, your brain's filters loosen. The guardrails of logic weaken, and unusual ideas slip through. That midnight scribble on a napkin may look insane in the morning, or it might be the seed of genius. Fatigue lets the brain wander where it normally wouldn't. 14. Dark humor signals resilience. Laughing at the painful isn't cruelty, it's armor. People who find comedy and tragedy often carry stronger emotional defenses. It's how they survive reality's heaviness. To laugh at the dark is to refuse to be crushed by it. 15. Men and women carry different cognitive strengths. Women often juggle multiple tasks fluidly, while men tend to dive deeply into one. It's not superiority. It's evolution's division of labor. Generations of survival carve different strengths, each vital in its own time. The brain remembers the roles even when society changes. 16. Most people underestimate their own attractiveness. When you look in the mirror, you see flaws magnified, tiny imperfections that no one else notices. But others see you in passing moments, your laughter, your gestures, the light in your eyes. Attraction is rarely about perfection. It's about presence. Chances are, you are far more magnetic than you believe. 17. Night owls are natural rebels. Those who stay awake long after the world sleeps often question authority more. The darkness has always belonged to thinkers, writers, rebels who resist the rules. Late hours breed independence. It's not just preference, it's personality wired for pushing boundaries. 18. Imagination rewires the brain almost like practice. When you visualize playing piano or shooting a basketball, the same neural pathways light up as if you were doing it physically. The mind rehearses, the body follows. That's why elite athletes and performers use visualization. It's practice without movement, but with power. 19. People with fewer friends often prefer depth over noise. They trade crowded rooms for intimate conversations. Their circle may be small, but each bond is layered, strong, unshakable. For them, connection isn't about numbers, it's about meaning. A single deep friendship outweighs dozens of shallow ones. 20. Writing down worries before sleep frees the mind. The page becomes a container for looping thoughts. Instead of recycling anxieties in your head, you anchor them to paper. The result? A calmer nervous system and deeper rest. Sleep welcomes those who unload their burdens first. 21. Talking to strangers daily boosts happiness. A smile to a cashier, a short chat with a neighbor. These micro-connections feed the social brain. Humans crave interaction, even tiny sparks of it. The happiest people aren't the richest or the most famous. They're the ones who engage with life around them. 22. Silence makes people squirm. We fill air with chatter not because silence is empty, but because it is full. Silence is a mirror, forcing self-reflection. Most people can't stand what echoes back, so they drown it with words. The loudest noise is often inside. 23. People who swear often are more honest. Profanity bypasses the filters of politeness. Raw words come from raw truth. When someone curses, it's often a signal they're speaking without disguise. Strange as it sounds, swearing can be a badge of sincerity. 24. Music with lyrics hijacks your attention. Your brain fights between processing the words in the song and the words in your head. That's why instrumentals, classical, ambient, lo-fi, boost focus, while pop lyrics pull you away. It's not about taste, it's about cognitive bandwidth. 25. Couples who laugh together stay together longer. Shared humor isn't just fun, it's glue. Every inside joke is a secret language, proof that two people see the world through the same lens. Laughter is love in disguise, a rhythm that keeps bonds alive. 26. High empathy feels like a physical wound. Mirror neurons fire when you see someone hurt, lighting up as if the pain were your own. That's why deeply empathetic people flinch when they witness suffering. For them, compassion isn't just an emotion, it's biology. 27. Daydreamers are hidden problem solvers. Letting the mind wander isn't laziness, it's strategy. When your brain drifts, it runs simulations, tests ideas, solves puzzles in the background. That sudden aha moment often comes after daydreaming, not grinding. 28. Chasing happiness makes it run faster. The more you hunt it directly, the further it slips. Happiness resists capture. It arrives indirectly, as a byproduct of meaning, growth, and connection. Joy isn't a prize, it's the side effect of living well. 29. Walking faster predicts longer life. Pace isn't just about movement, it's about vitality. People who naturally stride with energy tend to have healthier bodies and stronger hearts. In a way, every step is a clue to how long life may stretch. 30. Memory isn't a recording, it's a rewrite. Each time you recall an event, your brain edits it. Details shift, emotions reframe. Over time, your memory may look nothing like reality. The past is less a film and more a story retold until it becomes something new. 31. Overthinking is the curse of intelligence. Sharp minds cut both ways. The ability to analyze deeply often spirals into endless possibilities. What could be a gift becomes a trap, turning thought into paralysis. Intelligence solves problems, but it also creates imaginary ones. 32. Compliments hit harder than cash. Validation lights up reward circuits faster than money. For many, recognition fuels more joy than riches ever could. The human brain still values belonging and appreciation above pure wealth. 33. Hearing your name changes everything. It slices through noise like an alarm bell. When someone uses your name, your brain locks in. Instructions, requests, emotions, they all gain weight. A name isn't just sound, it's identity awakened. The color blue calms the body. Sky, sea, horizon. The shade signals safety. Blue lowers heart rates, relaxes tension, and soothes restlessness. That's why bedrooms and hospitals use it. The brain reads blue as peace. 35. Emotion tattoos memory. Neutral days fade, but love, fear, grief, they burn into the mind. Your brain is selective, carving permanent marks only when emotion demands it. Memory is not fair. It favors the dramatic over the ordinary. 36. Smiling tricks the brain into joy. Even when you're sad, forcing a smile activates the release of dopamine and serotonin. The body pretends, but the brain believes. That's why therapists sometimes encourage people to act happy. The act itself can flip the emotional switch. Sometimes joy begins as rebellion against sorrow. 37. Loving solitude means emotional independence. Those who find peace in their own company aren't antisocial, they're self-sufficient. They don't need constant validation because they draw energy inward. While others fear being alone, they thrive in it. Solitude is their sanctuary, not their prison. 38. Anger is often a mask for fear. That roar you see isn't always rage, it's protection. Beneath anger often lies sadness, insecurity, or vulnerability too fragile to show. The mind dresses wounds in fire so no one can see the cracks beneath. 39. Sharing secrets forges bonds. Every confession is an exchange of vulnerability. To hand someone your truth is to place trust in their hands. That intimacy deepens relationships faster than years of small talk. Secrets build bridges or burn them. There's rarely an in-between. 40. Fiction builds empathy. Reading novels isn't just entertainment, it's training. Each character you inhabit, each life you live on the page, strengthens your ability to feel what others feel. Stories are the gym where empathy lifts its weight. 41. Fatigue lowers resistance. When people are physically tired, they're more likely to agree, comply, or give in. Exhaustion softens the mind's defenses. That's why difficult conversations often resolve at night. Fatigue becomes persuasion's ally. 42. Forgiveness frees the body. Holding grudges isn't just emotional, it's biological stress. It raises blood pressure, floods the body with cortisol, and weakens the immune system. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's release. It heals the forgiver more than the forgiven. 43. Faces outlast names. Evolution carved us to remember visual allies and threats long before we invented language. That's why you'll recognize someone across a room, but struggle to recall their name. Your brain is ancient. It prioritizes survival over politeness. 44. Looking away doesn't mean disinterest. People who struggle with eye contact often dive deeper in thought. Their minds are working too hard to also hold the gaze. Disconnection in the eyes may actually mean deeper connection in the mind. 45. Emotions make decisions first. The heart leaps before the head calculates. Logic often arrives after the fact, cleaning up the choice with reasons. We believe we're rational creatures, but in truth, we're emotional beings who rationalize afterward. 46. Fast talkers seem more confident. Speed signals certainty. A quick tongue feels like a quick mind, even when the content is identical. That's why fast speakers are often mistaken for leaders the pace alone persuades. 47. Threats outweigh opportunities. Better to miss a meal than miss a predator. That's how evolution wired us. The brain notices danger faster than reward. That's why bad news spreads quicker and why fear sells more than hope. 48. Writing goals locks them in. Dreams in your head are clouds, but the moment you put them on paper, they take shape. People who write down goals are 42% more likely to achieve them because the act transforms intention into reality. Ink gives vision weight. 49. Loneliness weakens the immune system. Isolation eats away not just at the soul, but at the body. People who lack connection are more prone to illness, slower to heal, and more vulnerable overall. Humans aren't built for solitude, we're wired for tribe. 50. How you treat others reveals who you are. Every act of kindness or cruelty is less a reflection of them than of you. The way you handle the powerless, the inconvenient, the unnoticed, it's your soul in motion. The world is your mirror. Your actions are its reflection. 51. Stress can shrink your brain. Chronic stress floods the body with cortisol, and over time, that chemical storm erodes the hippocampus, the very part of the brain that controls learning and memory. That's why people under long-term stress feel foggy, forgetful, and drained. The weight of worry doesn't just sit on your shoulders, it physically rewires your mind. 52. People eat less when food is served on smaller plates. It isn't appetite that changes, it's perception. The brain sees a full small plate as abundance and a half-empty large plate as scarcity. The trick works so well that restaurants quietly use it to manage portion sizes. Your stomach listens less to hunger and more to illusion. 53. Nostalgia is the brain's painkiller. When you recall warm memories, childhood summers, your first love, laughter with friends, the brain releases dopamine and oxytocin. It doesn't just make you smile, it physically eases pain and reduces loneliness. Nostalgia isn't weakness, it's medicine from the past. 54. Eye contact can change memory. When someone stares directly at you while speaking, your recall of the moment sharpens. The gaze anchors the words deeper into your neural pathways. That's why intimate conversations and confrontations stay burned into your mind longer than casual chatter. Eyes don't just look, they brand memories. 55. People conform even when they know the truth. Classic psychology experiments prove it. Place someone in a group giving wrong answers, and most will follow along despite knowing better. The brain craves belonging more than accuracy. Truth bends under the weight of social pressure. 56. Smells connect stronger to memory than sight or sound. A whiff of perfume or a certain soap can drag you instantly back to childhood. That's because the olfactory bulb links directly to the hippocampus and amygdala, memory and emotions core. The nose is memory's secret doorway. 57. People under pressure make riskier choices. When adrenaline surges, rational thought narrows. The brain focuses on speed, not accuracy. That's why gamblers bet bigger under stress, and why soldiers in combat sometimes make reckless but instinctive moves. Pressure rewires caution into impulse. 58. Physical warmth makes people judge others as kinder. Holding a warm drink, sitting in a cozy room, it tricks the brain into seeing people around you as warmer in personality too. That's why comfort and kindness often walk hand in hand. Warmth is psychological as much as physical. 59. Social media hijacks dopamine like a drug. Each notification, like, or message gives your brain a small chemical reward. Over time, you start craving the next hit. Platforms know this. Algorithms are built to drip-feed validation. It's not willpower you're fighting. It's engineered addiction. 60. Gratitude rewires the brain for happiness. When you consistently list things you're thankful for, neural pathways shift. The mind begins scanning for positives automatically instead of negatives. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's mental training. Over weeks, it changes how you see the world. 61. People walking in the same direction synchronize without knowing it. When groups move together, on sidewalks, in halls, at protests, their steps gradually fall into rhythm. It's not choreography, it's biology. Humans evolved to move as tribes, and the body still carries that instinct. Walking together is more than motion, it's belonging. 62. Regret weighs heavier than failure. When people look back, they rarely ache for what they tried and lost. They ache for what they never dared. The brain punishes inaction more harshly than mistakes, because possibility lingers longer than closures. 63. People remember beginnings and endings, not middles. Psychologists call it the serial position effect. You recall the first impression and you cling to the last, but the long middle of experience? It blurs. That's why the way you start and finish matters more than the details in between. 64. Multisensory learning locks memory tighter. If you read something, hear it, and write it, your brain fuses the memory stronger. Each sense adds another layer of reinforcement. That's why teachers use visuals, sounds, and activities, because memory loves variety. 65. Power changes speech. People who feel powerful unconsciously lower their pitch, speak slower, and pause longer. Authority rewires rhythm. The voice becomes not just communication, but dominance expressed in sound. 66. People overestimate how much others notice them. It's called the spotlight effect. You think everyone sees your flaws, your mistakes, your awkwardness. In reality, most are too busy thinking the same about themselves. Your imagined spotlight is rarely real. 67. Pain shared feels lighter. When you talk about suffering with someone who listens, your brain reduces its intensity. Emotional pain doesn't just unload emotionally, it literally shifts neurologically. Support divides the burden. 68. Boredom sparks creativity. When the brain isn't overstimulated, it begins to wander, connect dots, imagine. The modern obsession with constant entertainment kills boredom, and with it the sparks of invention that come when the mind has space. 69. People who help others feel physically stronger. Acts of kindness release oxytocin, which reduces stress and boosts energy. That's why volunteering often leaves people more energized, not drained. Helping isn't sacrifice, it's fuel. 70. Scarcity makes things feel valuable. The fewer you perceive something to be, whether it's time, money, or opportunities, the more your brain desires it. Scarcity hacks desire. That's why limited offers and countdowns work so powerfully. 71. Talking about trauma reduces its power. Unspoken, it festers. But when you put pain into words, the prefrontal cortex, the logic center, helps regulate the amygdala, the fear center. Language weakens trauma's grip. Silence strengthens it. 2. People move toward those who mimic them. When someone mirrors your posture, gestures, or tone, you feel an unconscious pull toward them. It feels like familiarity, but it's psychology. We trust those who act like us, even subtly. 73. Small wins fuel big victories. The brain craves progress, not perfection. Checking off even tiny tasks releases dopamine. That's why breaking goals into steps works better than chasing a single giant leap. Momentum feeds motivation. 4. People overestimate others' happiness. We compare our worst moments to the highlight reels we see from others. The brain skews the truth, convincing us that everyone else is thriving while we struggle. Comparison is rarely fair. It's illusion. 75. Eye pupils reveal emotion more honestly than words. They widen with attraction, shrink with disgust, dilate with surprise. You can lie with your mouth, but not with your eyes. The pupils betray the heart. 76. People underplay compliments to themselves. When praised, many instinctively reject it. Oh, it's nothing. But internally, dopamine still spikes. Compliments always land, even when denied. The brain drinks recognition, even if the lips say no. 77. Familiarity breeds liking. The more you see someone, the more your brain grows comfortable with them. It's called the mere exposure effect. Strangers become friends, and sometimes love, through nothing more than repeated presence. 78. People misremember emotions more than facts. You might recall an event's details accurately, but your memory of how you felt often changes. The brain edits emotion to fit the story you now tell. The heart, unlike the mind, is easy to rewrite. 79. Deadlines create bursts of focus. The ticking clock forces the brain into urgency mode. Suddenly, procrastination turns into productivity. It's not that you work better under pressure. You simply silence distractions because time demands it. 80. Music can synchronize heartbeats. When people sing or play instruments together, their pulses literally align. Choirs, bands, even audiences can fall into collective rhythm. Music doesn't just move emotions, it unites bodies. Everyone thinks they understand human behavior. But the truth is, most of what we do isn't logical. It's patterns, instincts, and quirks hidden deep inside the brain. Scientists are still uncovering secrets that change how we see ourselves. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss the psychology facts that reveal how your mind actually works. Now let's begin. 1. Talking to yourself is a sign of higher focus, not madness. When you speak your thoughts out loud, your brain treats those words as commands rather than background noise. Athletes mutter plays to themselves. Surgeons whisper each step, and students repeat instructions because it sharpens concentration. Self-talk is your mind coaching itself in real time. It's less a flaw and more a hidden tool of mastery. 2. Messy handwriting often reveals a racing mind. The hand simply cannot keep up with the speed of thought, so words tumble out as scribbles. What looks chaotic on the page is usually the trace of rapid-fire ideas forming faster than ink can flow. These people aren't careless, they're overflowing. Messy writing is often the signature of creativity and quick thinking. 3. Negative words leave deeper marks than positive ones. From an evolutionary standpoint, spotting threats mattered more than noticing rewards. One harsh insult can echo in your mind for days, while 10 compliments may fade by morning. The brain stores pain more securely than praise. That's why criticism often sticks far longer than kindness. 4. Multitasking drains focus instead of saving time. Each time you switch from one task to another, your brain has to reset, losing precious energy. This mental reboot lowers sharpness to the level of someone who hasn't slept all night. The illusion is productivity, but the cost is clarity. True efficiency comes from depth, not division. 5. Doodling helps the brain remember more. When your hand sketches random shapes during a lecture or meeting, you're not distracted. You're anchoring attention. The small movement keeps your body busy, freeing your mind to absorb details. Studies prove doodlers recall more information than those who sit still. Scribbles are memory's secret ally. 6. A pounding heart can trick the brain into thinking it's love. Fear, excitement, or exercise all trigger the same physical reaction: adrenaline and a racing pulse. When someone attractive is nearby, your brain may mislabel the feeling as passion. That's why thrill rides or scary movies spark romance. Sometimes love is simply chemistry misinterpreted. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's confession of trust. When two people like each other, they subconsciously copy posture, gestures, even breathing rhythm. This silent mimicry builds instant rapport without words. It's your brain signaling connection. I feel safe with you. The body often reveals feelings long before the mouth admits them. 8. Quiet people are sharper observers than talkers. While others fill the air with words, they scan expressions, tones, and patterns in the room. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's a magnifying glass. They notice what most miss, from subtle gestures to hidden emotions. Stillness, for them, is perception. 9. Rejection activates the same pain pathways as injury. Being ignored or excluded doesn't just feel bad. Your brain registers it as real harm. Social wounds light up the same regions as physical bruises. That's why heartbreak can ache in the chest and loneliness can feel crushing. The brain treats isolation as danger. 10. Small lies smooth social life. On average, people lie once or twice a day, but usually with phrases like, "I'm fine," or "I'll be there soon." These aren't betrayals, they're fragile shields to avoid conflict or protect feelings. Honesty is noble, but bluntness isn't always kind. The little lie often serves as social glue. 11. Chewing gum sharpens focus and memory. The rhythmic act of chewing increases blood flow to the brain and boosts alertness. That's why students often chew during exams, and why soldiers used it in training. It wakes the mind without caffeine. Gum creates a steady beat, a mental metronome that helps the brain stay on track. It's a tiny habit with surprising power. 12. Calm people in chaos often carry old scars. What looks like composure is usually survival learned in youth. Those who grew up in unstable or stressful environments train their nervous systems under constant fire. As adults, they appear calm when storms hit. Not because they are unshaken, but because they've already weathered worse. Peace, for them, was never given. It was earned through struggle. 13. Creativity increases when you're slightly tired. Late at night, your brain's strict filters loosen. Ideas that would normally be dismissed as too weird are allowed to pass through. That's why some of the most brilliant inventions, songs, and theories began as scribbles in the dark. Fatigue isn't always failure. It can be the gate to originality. 14. A taste for dark humor signals resilience. People who laugh at life's most difficult truths aren't cruel. They're armored. Humor gives them distance from pain, a way to survive heaviness without being crushed. For them, comedy is not denial, but transformation. To laugh at the dark is to take its power away. 15. Night owls often question authority. Those awake long after midnight tend to challenge norms and resist control. The quiet hours give them space for independent thought and rebellion against rules. Many innovators and writers thrived in the night because silence let their minds run free. The darkness has always belonged to rebels. 16. Imagination rewires the brain almost like practice. When you visualize a skill, playing piano, shooting basketballs, giving a speech, the same neural pathways fire as if you were really doing it. Elite athletes rehearse victories in their minds before stepping onto the field. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagined and real rehearsal. Thought becomes training long before action. 17. People with fewer friends often seek depth over noise. They value intimacy, loyalty, and understanding more than numbers. For them, one meaningful bond outweighs 10 shallow ones. Their smaller circles are not weakness, but choice. Depth is their currency, and they spend it carefully. 18. Writing down worries before bed frees the brain. Unspoken fears loop endlessly in the mind, keeping you awake. But once written, they're contained on paper, no longer swirling inside. The act tricks the brain into releasing them for the night. Sleep comes easier when your burdens have a place to rest too. 19. Talking to strangers improves happiness. A smile at the cashier, a short chat on the bus. These tiny connections spark joy in the social brain. We underestimate how much these small exchanges matter, yet they boost mood for hours. Happiness doesn't always come from grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the passing nods of daily life. 20. Silence makes most people uncomfortable. We rush to fill it with chatter. Not because silence is empty, but because it is too full. Silence forces self-reflection, and many fear what they'll hear. That's why quiet moments in conversation feel heavy. Silence is a mirror, and not everyone wants to look into it. 21. People who swear are often more honest. Profanity bypasses the filters of politeness, letting raw truth slip through. Someone who curses in frustration is usually showing their real feelings rather than hiding behind diplomacy. Swearing can act as a badge of sincerity, a way of saying, "I'm not dressing this up, I mean it." The rough word often carries the real heart. 22. Music with lyrics distracts the mind more than instrumentals. When you study or work while listening to songs with words, your brain competes between processing the lyrics and your own thoughts. That's why many people perform better with classical, ambient, or lo-fi beats. Lyrics hijack language centers, dragging focus away. The background sound you choose shapes the sharpness of your mind. 23. Couples who laugh together stay together longer. Shared humor is more than fun. It's glue. Every inside joke is proof of a shared perspective, a signal that two people see the world the same way. Laughter builds intimacy faster than romance alone. A relationship that laughs survives storms that silence cannot. 24. High empathy can feel like physical pain. Mirror neurons fire when we see others suffer, activating the same regions as if we were hurt ourselves. That's why empathetic people flinch at injuries on screen or ache when loved ones cry. Compassion isn't just emotion, it's biology. To feel another's pain is literally to borrow their wound. 25. Daydreaming sharpens problem solving. When the mind wanders, it slips free of pressure and explores new possibilities. This mental sandbox allows creative solutions to emerge that logic might block. The sudden aha moment often comes after spacing out, not grinding harder. What looks like laziness is often quiet invention. 26. Chasing happiness makes it harder to catch. The more you hunt joy directly, the more it slips away. Happiness resists capture. It's a side effect of meaning, not a prize. People who focus on purpose, connection, and growth find happiness arriving quietly at their side. Joy is the shadow of fulfillment, not its substitute. 27. People who walk faster often live longer. Pace isn't just habit, it's vitality. A brisk stride signals strong cardiovascular health and higher energy. Studies show walking speed predicts longevity better than weight or diet alone. Life seems to stretch for those who move with purpose. 28. Memory rewrites itself each time it's recalled. The past is not a recording, it's a story retold. Each time you remember, details shift slightly, colored by your current emotions. Over years, the memory you cling to may barely resemble reality. The past is alive, constantly edited by the present. 29. Overthinking is the double-edged sword of intelligence. A sharp mind can slice problems apart, but it can also trap itself in endless spirals. The gift of analysis becomes a curse when possibilities multiply into paralysis. Smart people often suffer under the weight of their own thoughts. Their strength and struggle come from the same blade. 30. Compliments release more dopamine than money. Being recognized lights up the brain's reward circuits more quickly than financial gain. Praise satisfies a deeper need than wealth, the need for belonging and value. That's why even small acknowledgments can uplift someone for hours. Validation is a richer currency than cash. 31. Hearing your own name triggers instant attention. The sound of your name activates unique pathways in the brain's attention system. Even in a noisy crowd, you'll notice it above all other words. That's why salespeople, teachers, and leaders use names often. It pulls focus like a personal alarm. Your name is the most powerful word you'll ever hear. 32. The color blue calms the nervous system. From the sea to the sky, blue has always signaled safety. Staring at it lowers heart rate and blood pressure, creating a sense of stability. That's why hospitals and bedrooms are often painted in blue tones. Your brain reads the color as peace itself. 33. Emotion tattoos memory deeper than facts. Ordinary days fade, but moments of love, grief, or fear remain etched. The amygdala brands these experiences into long-term memory because survival depends on remembering intense feelings. That's why a breakup or a joyful wedding day feels vivid years later. Emotion is memory's ink. 34. Smiling can trick your brain into happiness. Even a forced smile activates the release of dopamine and serotonin. The brain buys what the face sells, slowly shifting mood. Sometimes joy begins as an act, and the act becomes reality. A smile is rebellion against sadness. 35. Solitude creates emotional independence. Those who enjoy being alone aren't broken. They're self-sufficient. They don't need constant validation because they can generate peace within themselves. Solitude sharpens clarity, creativity, and resilience. Being comfortable alone is a quiet superpower. Everyone believes they understand human behavior, but most of our actions are shaped by hidden instincts we don't notice. Psychology reveals the strange, surprising, and sometimes uncomfortable truths about why people think and act the way they do. These are not random curiosities. They are windows into how the human mind really works. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss these powerful insights. 1. People who blush easily are often more trustworthy. Blushing is an involuntary reaction controlled by the nervous system. Because it can't be faked, it signals honesty and vulnerability to others. That's why people who blush are often judged as more sincere. The body becomes a truth teller even when the mouth is silent. 2. Chewing food slowly increases feelings of happiness. Eating at a calm pace allows serotonin and dopamine to rise steadily in the brain. Fast eating spikes stress hormones and leaves people unsatisfied. Slow meals tell the nervous system, you are safe, you can enjoy. The rhythm of eating shapes emotional state. 3. People who fidget often have higher energy and focus. Tapping feet, playing with pens, or bouncing legs looks like distraction, but it stimulates alertness. Fidgeting keeps blood flow active and helps the brain stay awake. That's why some restless people perform better in long tasks. Movement keeps the mind sharp. 4. Memories tied to smell are the strongest of all. Scents bypass the brain's filters and go directly to the amygdala and hippocampus. That's why the smell of old perfume or rain can transport you instantly to childhood. Smells carry emotion more powerfully than sight or sound. Your nose is memory's secret doorway. 5. People who laugh often in conversations are seen as more attractive. Laughter releases endorphins, making people feel safe and connected. Sharing humor signals compatibility and shared perspective. That's why couples who laugh together report stronger bonds. Humor makes beauty glow brighter. 6. Anxiety sharpens focus on threats, but blocks big-picture thinking. The anxious brain zooms in on details that might signal danger. While this kept ancestors safe, it reduces creativity and problem-solving today. Anxiety narrows the mental lens until only survival matters. Stress protects, but also suffocates. 7. People who gesture while speaking are more persuasive. Hand movements give shape to abstract ideas, making them easier to follow. Gestures also signal confidence and energy to the listener. That's why great speakers use their hands deliberately. The body amplifies the voice. 8. Touch reduces stress instantly. A hug, handshake, or gentle pat activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It lowers cortisol and creates calm faster than words can. That's why physical comfort often speaks louder than reassurance. Skin-to-skin contact is nature's stress relief. 9. People who swear often show higher emotional intensity. Profanity bypasses filters and expresses raw truth. It signals passion, frustration, or sincerity more directly than polite language. That's why swearing can increase pain tolerance in experiments. Rough words release real feelings. 10. The brain prefers stories over statistics. Narratives engage emotional and memory systems more strongly than raw numbers. A single vivid story can move people more than 100 facts. That's why campaigns and leaders rely on storytelling. The mind remembers tales, not spreadsheets. 11. People walking in sync feel stronger bonds. Marching, dancing, or simply walking side by side creates subconscious unity. The body interprets synchronization as belonging and trust. That's why armies, rituals, and teams rely on shared rhythm. Steps together make hearts connect. 12. People underestimate how much others think about them. We believe we're quickly forgotten, but casual encounters often linger in memory. A kind word, insult, or small act can be remembered for years. You live longer in others' thoughts than you realize. Your impact is greater than you know. 13. Music tempo changes heart rhythm. Fast songs speed up pulse and breathing, while calm music slows them down. That's why playlists can energize workouts or relax anxious minds. The body dances to sound even when still. Rhythm becomes heartbeat. People are more generous when they feel observed. Even a picture of watching eyes makes people cheat less and tip more. The brain evolved under tribal watchfulness, so it behaves better under a gaze. Morality strengthens when we sense surveillance. Conscience is partly social. 15. Writing by hand improves learning better than typing. Forming letters activates motor skills, spatial awareness, and memory systems at once. Typing skips these deep layers of processing. That's why handwritten notes stick longer in memory. Ink anchors knowledge in the brain. 16. People who smile when sad trick their brain into joy. Facial muscles send signals to the brain that emotions are shifting. Even forced smiles release dopamine and serotonin, slowly improving mood. The body can lead the mind out of darkness. Joy sometimes begins as rebellion against sorrow. 17. Multitasking drains focus instead of saving time. Each switch between tasks forces the brain to reset, costing energy and clarity. The result is lower IQ and worse memory in the short term. Busy feels productive but actually destroys efficiency. Deep focus always wins over divided attention. 18. Couples who share humor stay together longer. Laughing builds intimacy and smooths over conflict more effectively than logic. Every inside joke signals shared worldview and trust. Humor is glue that bonds relationships against life's pressures. Joy sustains love more than passion alone. 19. People remember beginnings and endings best. This is called the serial position effect. The brain holds on to first impressions and final moments while the middle fades. That's why the start and end of a story or meeting matter most. Memory clings to edges, not the middle. 20. Fear spreads faster than calm in groups. If one person panics, the emotion ripples instantly through others. Evolution wired us to copy alarm more quickly than relaxation. Missing danger once could mean death, but missing peace never did. That's why mobs spiral faster than they settle. 21. People are more likely to agree when tired. Fatigue lowers resistance and weakens defenses against persuasion. That's why late-night negotiations or arguments end in quicker concessions. The brain saves energy by saying yes more easily. Tiredness persuades without words. 22. Nostalgia soothes emotional and physical pain. Remembering childhood or happy moments floods the brain with oxytocin. This reduces stress, eases loneliness, and can even lower physical pain. Nostalgia isn't weakness, it's medicine from the past. Memory becomes therapy. 3. Confidence changes posture automatically. When people feel powerful, they stand taller, shoulders back, strides longer. Even pretending with power poses triggers testosterone and lowers stress hormones. The body shapes the mind as much as the mind shapes the body. Posture can create confidence from nothing. 24. People complain themselves into negativity. Each complaint strengthens neural pathways that make pessimism easier. Over time, the brain defaults to seeing problems first. Gratitude practice builds new roots, but feels awkward at first. Thought patterns become mental habits. 25. People are more generous after experiencing gratitude. Feeling thankful activates the brain's reward circuits and increases empathy. Grateful people give more, help more, and connect more deeply. Gratitude reshapes behavior beyond mood. Appreciation breeds generosity. 6. Faces are recognized faster than names. The human brain evolved to identify allies and threats visually long before language existed. That's why you can spot a face from decades ago, but forget someone's name seconds after hearing it. Vision carved survival. Names came later. Faces are memory's priority. 27. Stress pushes people into risky decisions. Under pressure, adrenaline makes quick, bold choices feel urgent. Gamblers bet higher when anxious, and leaders act more impulsively in crisis. Stress tricks the brain into mistaking danger for necessity. Urgency bends judgment away from caution. 28. Curiosity boosts learning more than discipline. When the brain craves an answer, dopamine surges and memory strengthens. That's why passionate learners remember far more than forced ones. Curiosity turns knowledge into pleasure. Hunger for truth sticks longer than obligation. 29. Forgiveness strengthens health as well as relationships. Holding grudges floods the body with cortisol, raising blood pressure and stress. Releasing resentment lowers tension and boosts immunity. Forgiveness doesn't excuse harm, it frees the forgiver. Mercy is medicine hidden in the heart. 30. People trust deep voices more than high ones. Lower pitch signals confidence, authority, and maturity across cultures. That's why leaders, narrators, and actors train to deepen their voices. The brain translates sound into strength. Power often begins in tone, not words. 31. People nod more when music plays in the background. Rhythm naturally primes the body to sync, even in conversation. Subtle beats influence agreement and mood without awareness. That's why shops, ads, and rallies use music strategically. The body says yes before the mind decides. 32. Boredom sparks hidden creativity. When the brain isn't overloaded, it begins connecting unusual ideas. That's why breakthroughs often happen while showering or staring into space. Boredom is not emptiness. It is fertile ground for imagination. Silence grows in invention. 3. People who plan their mornings feel calmer all day. Writing down goals signals order to the brain before chaos begins. This lowers cortisol and reduces procrastination. The mind relaxes with a clear map to follow. Structure turns anxiety into focus. 34. Yawning is contagious because of empathy. When one person yawns, mirror neurons trigger the same action in others. The stronger the empathy, the more likely it spreads. Yawning is proof of emotional synchrony. The body shows connection through shared fatigue. 35. People overeat when distracted. Eating while watching TV or scrolling reduces awareness of fullness. The brain delays satiety signals, leading to larger portions consumed. Mindful eating restores the balance between body and appetite. Attention controls hunger as much as food. 36. People misjudge how closely others notice them. This spotlight effect makes you feel like everyone sees your flaws. In reality, most are too focused on themselves to notice. Anxiety magnifies self-awareness beyond reality. The spotlight is imagined, not real. 37. Humor makes people appear more intelligent. Quick jokes show fast thinking and social awareness. Listeners interpret humor as a sign of creativity and sharpness. That's why witty speakers are often seen as smarter than serious ones. Laughter signals intelligence disguised as play. 38. Smells influence decisions more than we realize. The scent of cleanliness makes people behave more ethically, while pleasant aromas increase generosity. Smell bypasses logic and alters mood directly. Businesses use scent design to shape behavior silently. The nose guides choices the mind can't explain. 39. Group chanting or singing bonds people instantly. Shared rhythm releases endorphins and oxytocin, creating trust and unity. That's why rituals, concerts, and sports chants feel so powerful. Music doesn't just entertain, it fuses individuals into one. Rhythm makes strangers feel like tribe. 40. People judge intelligence by calm tone before content. Steady rhythm and relaxed delivery make words sound wiser, even if they're simple. The brain equates calm with authority and competence. That's why great leaders train not only what to say, but how to say it. Confidence is heard before it is understood. 1. Talking to yourself makes your brain sharper, not weaker. By speaking your thoughts out loud, the brain treats the words as real instructions instead of background noise. That's why top athletes, surgeons, and even chess players whisper to themselves to improve focus and control. Self-talk is your mind coaching itself into peak performance. 2. Messy handwriting usually signals a fast and creative thinker. Ideas are moving so quickly in the brain that the hand can't keep up, leaving chaotic scribbles on the page. What looks like disorder is actually the trace of speed, imagination, and overflowing thought. Messy writing is often the mark of a restless and brilliant mind. 3. Negative words stay longer in memory than positive ones. The brain evolved to pay closer attention to threats than to rewards because survival depended on it. A single insult can echo for days, while 10 compliments fade almost instantly. Pain is stored in bold ink, while kindness is often written in pencil. 4. Multitasking doesn't make you efficient, it makes you weaker. Switching between tasks forces the brain to reset each time, draining energy and clarity. Research shows multitasking lowers IQ temporarily to the level of someone who stayed up all night. Focused depth always beats scattered energy. 5. Doodling is not distraction, it is memory's hidden anchor. When people sketch during lectures or meetings, they actually recall more details later. The moving hand occupies the body so the mind can lock onto what is being said. Scribbles become secret tools of attention and retention. 6. A racing heartbeat can trick your brain into believing it's love. Fear, excitement, and attraction all release the same rush of adrenaline and pounding pulse. That's why dates at roller coasters or scary movies feel more intense and romantic. The brain often mistakes danger for desire. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's silent confession of trust. When people cross their legs, tilt their heads, or even breathe in sync, it's a sign of hidden connection. The brain copies what it likes and what it feels safe with. Mirroring is rapport without a single word spoken. 8. Quiet people often observe more than loud ones. While others fill the air with noise, the silent ones are scanning details and emotions others miss. Stillness sharpens awareness and gives them insights that pass unnoticed in conversation. Silence is not emptiness, it's a magnifying glass. 9. Rejection lights up the same brain regions as physical injury. Being excluded, ignored, or heartbroken doesn't just hurt emotionally, it activates the same neural pathways as a bruise or cut. That's why heartbreak aches in the chest and loneliness feels crushing. To the brain, social wounds are real wounds. 10. Small lies usually serve as fragile shields, not betrayals. People lie once or twice a day, but mostly with phrases like, "I'm fine," or "I'll be there soon." These lies aren't meant to deceive, but to avoid conflict or protect feelings. Dishonesty sometimes comes from kindness, not cruelty. 11. Chewing gum sharpens focus and improves memory. The rhythm of chewing increases blood flow to the brain and wakes up alertness. That's why students often chew during exams, and soldiers once used gum in training. A small and simple act can give the brain a secret edge. 12. Calm people in chaos often learn their composure the hard way. Many who look unshaken during storms grew up in unstable environments where they had to regulate stress early. Their calmness is not natural but forged through survival and scars. What looks like effortless strength is often the memory of past battles. 13. Creativity often appears when the brain is slightly tired. In the late hours, the mental guardrails that normally filter out strange ideas grow weaker. This allows the mind to connect thoughts in unusual and original ways. What feels like chaos and exhaustion can later become a spark of genius. Fatigue opens doors that logic usually keeps closed. 14. Dark humor is a sign of resilience, not cruelty. Laughing at painful or taboo topics helps people cope with heavy realities. By reshaping pain into comedy, they give themselves distance from suffering. Humor becomes armor against the harshest experiences. Joking about the dark is survival disguised as laughter. 15. Night owls are more likely to question authority. Those who thrive at night often resist traditional rules and expectations. Darkness gives them freedom to think differently without pressure. Many rebels, writers, and innovators worked best while others slept. Midnight hours belong to independent minds. 16. Imagination rewires the brain almost like practice itself. Visualizing a skill activates the same neural circuits as performing it in real life. Athletes rehearse victories in their heads before they compete. Musicians practice silently by imagining each note played. The mind lays the path long before the body walks it. 17. People with fewer friends usually prefer depth over noise. They focus on loyalty, honesty, and intimacy rather than large social circles. Their smaller groups protect them from betrayal and exhaustion. Each relationship carries more weight and sincerity. In their world, quality always outweighs quantity. 18. Writing down worries before bed brings peace to the brain. Unwritten fears spin in circles, keeping the mind restless. Once captured on paper, the brain releases them and allows calmness to return. This simple ritual helps people sleep deeper and recover better. A notebook often becomes the container for a quiet night. 19. Talking to strangers increases happiness more than expected. Small interactions, like greeting a cashier or chatting with a neighbor, activate social reward systems. These micro moments reduce feelings of loneliness and create sparks of joy. We often underestimate their power in daily life. Happiness is sometimes found in passing smiles. 20. Silence is uncomfortable because it reflects inward. People fear the emptiness because it forces them to hear their own inner voices. That's why pauses in conversation feel so heavy and awkward. Silence doesn't lack meaning, it has too much. The quiet exposes what words usually hide. 21. Swearing often signals honesty and emotional intensity. Profanity bypasses the social filters of politeness and reveals unpolished truth. People who curse openly tend to express emotions more sincerely. Rough language can sometimes carry the most genuine feelings. Honesty often sounds raw and unrefined. 22. Music with lyrics competes directly with your thoughts. The brain can't process song words and internal thinking at the same time. That's why classical or instrumental music improves concentration. Lyrics hijack the language centers and drain focus. Silence or sound without words sharpens mental clarity. 23. Couples who laugh together are more resilient over time. Shared humor builds intimacy and softens conflict better than logic alone. Every inside joke proves a shared view of the world. Laughter is glue that holds relationships steady in storms. Joy in love is stronger than passion alone. 24. Deep empathy feels like borrowing another's pain. Mirror neurons activate as if you were experiencing the suffering yourself. That's why compassionate people wince when others get hurt. Empathy is not just imagination. It is biology. To feel with someone is to carry part of their burden. 25. Daydreaming is problem-solving in disguise. When the mind wanders, it explores possibilities beyond the pressure of focus. Many breakthroughs arrive while walking, showering, or staring into space. What looks like idleness is creative testing behind the scenes. Wandering thoughts are often working thoughts. 26. Chasing happiness directly makes it harder to achieve. The more people pursue joy as a goal, the more it escapes them. Happiness comes as a byproduct of purpose, connection, and growth. It cannot be hunted, only welcomed. Fulfillment attracts joy quietly, without pursuit. 27. Walking speed reveals health and vitality. People who walk briskly tend to live longer and healthier lives. Doctors even use pace as a predictor of longevity. Energy and strength show themselves in each stride. Your steps can reveal the length of your journey. 28. Memory changes a little every time it is recalled. When you revisit a moment, the brain rewrites details with today's emotions and context. Over years, stories shift until they barely resemble the original event. What feels like a fixed memory is actually a living story. The past is constantly edited by the present. 29. Overthinking is intelligence turned inward against itself. A sharp mind can generate endless possibilities, but also endless doubts. This ability to analyze deeply can trap decisions in spirals. What solves problems in one moment can create them in another. Brilliance and burden live in the same mind. 30. Compliments release more dopamine than money. Recognition satisfies the brain's reward system faster than cash. Humans crave belonging and appreciation above material gain. That's why praise can energize someone for days. Validation feels richer than wealth to the human heart. 31. Hearing your own name captures attention instantly. Even in a noisy crowd, the brain detects it above all other sounds. Identity is wired as the strongest trigger of focus. That's why salespeople, leaders, and teachers use names often. Your name is the most powerful word you'll ever hear. 32. The color blue calms the body and the mind. It lowers heart rate, eases breathing, and reduces stress hormones. Blue reminds the brain of sky and sea, ancient signs of safety. That's why hospitals, bedrooms, and apps often use it. The color itself speaks peace into the nervous system. 33. Emotion leaves deeper marks on memory than logic. Facts are forgotten quickly, but feelings stay carved in the brain. The amygdala ensures emotional events are stored long-term for survival. That's why heartbreaks, weddings, or grief remain vivid decades later. Feeling is memory's true ink. 34. Smiling can create happiness instead of reflecting it. Even a forced smile tricks the brain into releasing dopamine and serotonin. Over time, mood catches up with expression. Joy doesn't always begin inside, it can start on the face. The body leads, and the mind follows. 35. Enjoying solitude signals strong emotional independence. People who like being alone recharge from within instead of seeking constant validation. They don't fear silence, they use it for clarity and strength. Solitude builds creativity and resilience. Being comfortable alone is a rare form of power. 36. Anger is often a mask for softer emotions underneath. People roar so that their fear, shame, or sadness remain hidden. Rage feels powerful but usually protects fragility. What looks like hostility may be pain in disguise. Behind the fire often lies something deeply vulnerable. 37. Sharing secrets bonds people faster than years of small talk. Every confession is a gift of vulnerability, inviting trust in return. That's why whispered truths build closeness quickly. Secrets act like emotional glue between people. Trust grows strongest in the dark. 38. Reading fiction trains empathy like exercise. By living in characters' minds, you practice understanding perspectives beyond your own. This strengthens your ability to sense emotions in real life. Stories aren't just entertainment. They're rehearsal for compassion. Books build the muscles of empathy. 39. Fatigue lowers resistance to influence and persuasion. Tired brains save energy by agreeing more quickly. That's why late-night arguments or negotiations often end in concessions. Exhaustion doesn't just weaken the body, it softens the will. Fatigue makes compliance feel easier than conflict. 40. Forgiveness heals the body as much as the soul. Holding grudges floods the body with stress chemicals that weaken health. Releasing resentment lowers blood pressure and restores balance. Forgiveness doesn't excuse wrongs, it frees the one who was wronged. Letting go is medicine disguised as mercy. 41. Faces are remembered far longer than names. The brain evolved to recognize allies and threats visually before language even existed. That's why you can recall a face from decades ago but forget the name seconds later. Faces are survival markers. Names are inventions. Vision holds memory better than words. 42. Avoiding eye contact often means deep thought, not disinterest. The brain sometimes needs to look away to process information fully. Concentration can make direct gaze impossible. Looking down or aside can be a sign of effort, not avoidance. The mind runs deeper when the eyes wander. 43. Emotions guide decisions before logic arrives. We like to think choices are rational, but feelings act first. The brain leaps toward what feels right, and reasoning often comes later to justify. Emotion is the compass, logic the lawyer. What we call rationality is often explanation, not cause. 44. Talking quickly makes people seem more confident. Listeners equate speed with certainty, even if the content is the same. A rapid, fluent delivery signals sharpness and conviction. The brain mistakes fluency for intelligence. Fast words can persuade where slow ones cannot. 45. Threats capture attention faster than rewards. Evolution wired the brain to notice danger before opportunity. Missing food hurt less than missing a predator. That's why fear spreads quicker than hope and bad news outshines good. The mind still prioritizes survival over success. 46. Writing down goals increases the chance of success. Putting dreams into ink makes them concrete instead of vague. Studies show written goals are achieved far more often than spoken ones. The act signals commitment to the brain. A notebook can turn wishes into plans. 47. Loneliness damages health like smoking or poor diet. Isolation raises stress hormones, weakens immunity, and shortens lifespan. The human brain is built for tribe, not solitude. Without connection, the body and soul both decline. Loneliness isn't just sadness, it's sickness. 48. First impressions are formed in less than a second. Before a word is spoken, the brain scans posture, eyes, and micro-movements. These snap judgments are survival instincts carried into modern life. Once formed, they are hard to undo. Safety or danger is decided faster than truth. 49. Nostalgia eases pain like a natural drug. Remembering happy moments triggers dopamine and oxytocin. Old songs or scents can soothe stress instantly. The brain uses memory as medicine. The past comforts the present more than we realize. 50. Power reduces empathy and perspective. Feeling dominant suppresses brain regions linked to compassion. Leaders and the powerful risk making bolder but colder choices. Authority intoxicates by shrinking emotional awareness. Power sharpens action but dulls connection. 51. People eat more when offered variety. Different flavors and colors reset the appetite repeatedly. That's why buffets make people overeat compared to single meals. The brain craves novelty even when the body doesn't need it. Variety tricks fullness into silence. 52. Breathing synchronizes between people who connect deeply. Couples, friends, and even groups in harmony often match rhythm without trying. Shared breath is a physical sign of closeness. The body mirrors the bond silently. Intimacy shapes even the way lungs move. 53. Memory strengthens when tied to location. The brain links information with places, building mental maps. That's why you recall facts better in the room where you learned them. Ancient storytellers used the memory palace to remember long tales. Space becomes a filing cabinet for thought. 54. Curiosity is the brain's hunger for knowledge. Dopamine fires when you seek answers, just as if anticipating food. That's why puzzles, mysteries, and secrets feel addictive. Curiosity turns learning into pleasure. The mind craves discovery as much as survival. 55. Stress pushes people into risky choices. Adrenaline narrows thought and makes bold actions seem urgent. Gamblers under stress bet more recklessly. Urgency tricks the brain into mistaking danger for necessity. Pressure bends judgment toward impulse. 56. Symmetry in faces signals beauty across all cultures. The brain reads balance as health and genetic strength. Even infants prefer symmetrical faces before they can speak. Evolution carved attraction into geometry. What we call beauty is survival dressed as aesthetics. 57. Emotions distort time perception. Fear slows seconds into minutes, while joy makes hours vanish. The brain stretches or compresses time depending on feeling. That's why danger feels endless and happiness feels fleeting. Emotion is the true clock of human life. 58. Repetition makes lies feel like truth. The more often a statement is repeated, the safer and more familiar it feels to the brain. Familiarity gets mistaken for accuracy, even without proof. That's why propaganda and advertising use repetition constantly. The mind confuses recognition with reality. 59. Complaining rewires the brain toward negativity. Each time you dwell on problems, those neural pathways grow stronger. Over time, the brain defaults to pessimism because it takes the easiest, most practiced route. Gratitude can feel unnatural at first because it's building new connections. Thoughts carve grooves that shape outlook. 60. Gestures help the brain process abstract ideas. When people move their hands while explaining, they anchor complex concepts into physical form. This helps both the speaker and the listener understand better. Gestures are not distractions, they are tools for clarity. The body supports the mind in communication. 61. Sleep is the brain's memory workshop. During deep rest, the brain replays and reorganizes the day's events. Important details are reinforced while irrelevant clutter gets erased. That's why studying before bed strengthens recall. Sleep isn't rest, it's the mind's filing system. 62. Small gestures of kindness impact more than we realize. A smile, a thank you, or holding the door can alter someone's entire day. These actions trigger dopamine and oxytocin in both giver and receiver. You may forget the act, but the other person may remember it for years. Kindness is tiny, but unforgettable. 63. Multilingual people often shift personalities with language. Each language carries its own rhythm, culture, and emotional associations. Speaking a different tongue can make someone more confident, humorous, or formal. The brain doesn't just switch words, it adjusts tone and mindset. Language is identity in multiple versions. 64. Anticipation excites the brain more than reward itself. Waiting for a surprise, a gift, or a big event triggers huge dopamine surges. The what if feels stronger than the what is. That's why cliffhangers and countdowns are so addictive. The thrill is often in the waiting. 65. Fast talkers are perceived as more persuasive. Quick, fluent speech signals certainty and intelligence, even when the content is identical. Listeners equate speed with confidence and sharp thinking. The brain mistakes fluency for authority. A rapid tongue can sell even weak arguments. 66. Jealousy activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Seeing someone else with what you want hurts like an injury. That's why jealousy feels like being punched in the gut or stabbed in the heart. The brain processes lost status as danger. Envy is pain disguised as anger. 67. Love floods the brain with chemicals like addiction. Early romance surges with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, creating euphoria and obsession. The brain treats love like a drug, pulling you back for more. That's why people act irrationally when in love. Passion is chemistry wrapped in poetry. 68. People remember emotions longer than exact words. You may forget what someone said, but you'll always recall how they made you feel. Emotional tone burns deeper into memory than language. That's why kindness and cruelty echo louder than details. Feelings outlive sentences. 9. Group pressure can override personal truth. Experiments prove people will agree with obviously wrong answers if the group insists. Belonging feels safer than accuracy because rejection once meant death. Conformity isn't weakness, it's survival instinct. The tribe's voice can drown the individual's. 70. Images make information feel more trustworthy. The brain gives more credibility to facts paired with visuals. That's why charts, pictures, and symbols can manipulate as much as inform. Seeing feels like believing, even when the picture deceives. Vision persuades faster than reason. 71. Humor diffuses conflict faster than logic ever could. A joke lowers tension, reduces defensiveness, and shifts perspective instantly. Where reasoning might fuel argument, laughter disarms. Humor resets the emotional tone of a room. Jokes are weapons of peace. 72. Tone of voice shapes perceived intelligence. Calm, steady speech sounds wiser than rushed or shaky delivery. People judge intelligence and authority by rhythm before content. That's why leaders train not only what they say, but how they say it. Sound persuades as much as meaning. 73. Stress narrows the brain's perception. Under pressure, adrenaline makes you focus only on immediate threats. While this helps survival, it kills creativity and long-term planning. That's why in emergencies, people miss small details. Calmness expands awareness that stress compresses. 74. Emotions spread between people like invisible waves. If someone is anxious, those nearby often feel tense too. If someone is joyful, others lighten up. Mirror neurons pick up and copy emotional states automatically. We don't just mimic gestures, we catch moods. Emotion is contagious energy. 75. The brain values losses more heavily than gains. Losing $100 hurts far more than winning $100 feels good. This loss aversion guides countless decisions without us noticing. It was safer to avoid danger than to chase reward. Fear weighs more than hope in human psychology. 76. Music influences how people drive. Fast, intense beats raise heart rate and push drivers to speed, while slow songs calm and slow movements. Playlists can shape risk-taking more than we realize. That's why traffic safety campaigns sometimes target sound. Your ears help steer your hands. 77. People unconsciously mimic others' accents and tones. When we like someone, our voice shifts slightly toward their rhythm and pitch. It's the brain's way of building connection without words. This mimicry happens faster than we notice. Even speech wants to belong. 78. Messy environments often boost creativity. Clutter stimulates the brain with unpredictability, sparking unconventional thought. While order promotes discipline, chaos encourages invention. That's why some innovators thrive in disorganized rooms. Disorder feeds imagination. 9. Fear burns memories deeper into the brain. Moments of terror activate the amygdala and sear details into long-term storage. Smells, sounds, and sights from those events stay vivid for decades. Fear is evolution's branding iron for survival. Trauma lasts longer than comfort. 80. Laughing at yourself builds resilience. Turning mistakes into jokes lowers stress and protects self-esteem. It shows strength rather than weakness, because it robs errors of power. People who laugh at themselves recover from setbacks faster. Humor transforms shame into survival. 81. Height influences perceptions of power. Taller individuals are often judged as more competent and leader-like, even when skill is equal. Studies show height even sways elections and promotions. The brain equates size with strength. Instinct shapes judgment more than reason. 82. Curiosity locks learning into memory. When you want to know, dopamine activates and boosts retention. That's why lessons tied to genuine interest stick better than forced ones. Curiosity makes knowledge addictive. The hungry brain never forgets what it craves. 83. Positive instructions work better than negatives. Walk slowly is obeyed more than don't run, because the brain struggles with negation. Clear, affirmative phrasing directs action more effectively. Words shape behavior like rails shape trains. Guidance works best when it points forward. 84. Stress increases cravings for sugar. Cortisol signals the body to seek fast energy, making sweets irresistible. The relief is short-lived, but the crash deepens fatigue. Stress hijacks appetite into survival mode. Cravings are biology, not weakness. 85. Emotionally charged speeches are remembered longer than factual ones. Passion and energy burn into the mind while pure logic fades. That's why movements rely on fiery words rather than statistics. The brain holds on to feelings stronger than facts. Emotion is the true echo of memory. 86. Human behavior is more predictable than we think. Habits and subconscious scripts guide most choices with surprising regularity. Psychologists can forecast actions because patterns repeat. Free will exists, but often shares space with automatic wiring. Predictability hides in everyday routines. 87. Planning your day in the morning reduces stress. Writing down tasks gives the brain a sense of order before chaos begins. This lowers cortisol and increases focus throughout the day. The mind relaxes when it sees a clear roadmap. A plan is a shield against anxiety. Everyone thinks they understand human behavior, but most of what drives us isn't logical. It's instincts, ancient wiring, and strange quirks of the mind. Psychology pulls back the curtain on patterns that feel invisible, but shape every decision. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss these insights about how the human brain really works. Here are 15 new facts that will change the way you see people. 1. Eye contact creates trust but also pressure. When someone looks directly into your eyes, your brain interprets it as both intimacy and threat. That's why long eye contact feels powerful. It forces vulnerability. Too little makes someone seem distant. Too much feels invasive. The balance between glance and stare is where trust is born. 2. People mimic accents and gestures unconsciously. When we like someone, our brain copies their speech, rhythm, tone, or body language. It's not planned. It's rapport building on autopilot. This mirroring tells the other person, "We are alike, you can trust me." The more connection we feel, the stronger the mimicry becomes. 3. Stress literally shrinks parts of the brain. Chronic stress floods the body with cortisol, which over time damages the hippocampus, the area linked to memory and learning. That's why long-term anxiety leads to brain fog and forgetfulness. Stress doesn't just feel heavy, it rewires the mind itself. Calmness is more than comfort, it's protection. 4. People walk slower when sad and faster when excited. Your emotions leak into your movements whether you notice or not. Sadness lowers energy, slumps the shoulders, and slows the pace. Joy or anticipation speeds you up without effort. The body reveals feelings before the mouth speaks them. 5. Music changes how food tastes. Upbeat songs make meals seem sweeter, while dark or slow music makes them taste more bitter. The brain blends sensory input, so sound alters flavor. That's why restaurants carefully choose playlists. They know sound can season food. Your ears feed your tongue. 6. People are more likely to agree when tired. Exhaustion weakens resistance and lowers defenses. That's why late-night negotiations or arguments often end in quick concessions. The brain saves energy by saying yes. Fatigue doesn't just drain, it persuades. 7. Nostalgia acts like a natural painkiller. Remembering childhood moments or old friendships triggers dopamine and oxytocin. This reduces stress and even lowers physical pain. Nostalgia isn't weakness, it's medicine from the past. The brain uses memory to soothe the present. 8. Power changes how people speak. Those who feel powerful unconsciously slow their speech, lower their pitch, and pause more often. Their voice demands attention without needing volume. Authority alters rhythm, turning conversation into command. The brain translates tone into dominance. 9. Boredom sparks creativity. When your mind isn't overstimulated, it begins to wander and make unusual connections. That's why daydreaming often leads to solutions that focus cannot find. Boredom is not wasted time. It's the soil where new ideas grow. Silence and stillness are the brain's playground. 10. People remember beginnings and endings best. It's called the serial position effect. The first impression and the final moment stay vivid, while the middle blurs. That's why openings and farewells matter so much. What you start and how you end shapes how you are remembered. 11. Touch creates trust faster than words. A handshake, a pat on the shoulder, or even a light touch on the arm activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This makes people feel connected instantly. That's why physical contact often builds trust faster than speeches. The skin speaks its own language. 12. People eat less from smaller plates. The brain judges portion size by sight, not stomach. A full small plate feels more satisfying than a half-empty large one. That's why plate size influences diet success more than willpower. The eye is the gatekeeper of appetite. 13. People remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. The brain hates open loops, so it keeps nagging until the task is done. That's why cliffhangers in TV shows are so addictive. They hijack your psychology. Incompletion demands attention. Fear spreads faster than calm. If one person panics in a crowd, the emotion ripples instantly. Evolution wired us to copy alarm faster than comfort. Missing fear once could mean death. Missing calm meant nothing. That's why mobs spiral quickly, but settle slowly. 15. Gratitude rewires the brain for happiness. Writing down or speaking what you're thankful for activates brain circuits tied to reward. Over time, the mind starts searching for positives automatically. Gratitude isn't just polite, it's neurological training. The more you practice, the more your brain tilts toward joy. 16. Imagination changes the brain almost like real action. When you visualize playing the piano, shooting a basketball, or running a race, your brain activates the same neural circuits as if you actually did it. That's why elite athletes rehearse victories in their heads before stepping onto the field. The mind lays down pathways first, and the body later follows them. Thought is rehearsal for reality. 17. People who forgive easily are physically healthier. Letting go of grudges lowers stress hormones, reduces blood pressure, and strengthens the immune system. Holding anger poisons the body as much as the mind. Forgiveness doesn't excuse, it releases. To forgive is to choose health over bitterness. 18. Eye pupils reveal emotions more honestly than words. They dilate with attraction, widen with surprise, and shrink with disgust. Unlike speech, pupils can't be controlled consciously. The eyes betray what the heart feels. If you want truth, watch the pupils, not the lips. 19. People crave patterns even in randomness. That's why we see faces in clouds, hear messages in static, or find lucky numbers. The brain is built to search for order because pattern detection once meant survival. This same instinct creates superstition. Chaos feels unbearable until we invent meaning. 20. People underestimate how much others think about them. You might believe your presence barely registers, but studies show casual encounters often linger in memory. A kind word, a rude gesture, even a passing smile can echo for years. You live longer in other minds than you imagine. Impact is larger than awareness. 21. Smells are the strongest memory triggers. A whiff of perfume, an old book, or fresh rain can instantly transport you decades back. That's because the olfactory system is wired directly to the amygdala and hippocampus, emotion and memory's core. Scents bypass logic and stab straight into memory. Your nose is a time machine. 22. People are more generous when they feel watched. Even an image of eyes on a poster makes people tip more and cheat less. The brain evolved under constant tribal observation, so it behaves better when it senses being seen. Morality sharpens under an imagined gaze. Conscience is partly social. 23. Small wins fuel big victories. The brain thrives on progress, not perfection. Checking off small tasks releases dopamine, building momentum. Step by step, minor achievements stack into major triumphs. Success is rarely a leap. It's a staircase. 24. Deadlines create bursts of focus. Procrastination collapses when time runs out. The ticking clock forces the brain to silence distractions and zero in. That's why many finish projects at the last moment with sudden clarity. Urgency hacks focus like nothing else. 25. Power makes people more impulsive. When someone feels authority, their brain quiets areas linked to caution and empathy. This can lead to bold, risky decisions. Power fuels action, but often blinds foresight. Control can intoxicate as much as alcohol. 26. People judge trustworthiness by eyebrows more than smiles. Subtle shifts in brow shape and movement influence whether someone feels honest or deceptive. The smallest facial feature carries surprising weight. We think we judge words, but often it's eyebrows making the call. Trust lives in the details. 27. People walking side by side unconsciously synchronize. Without trying, their steps fall into rhythm, their bodies matching pace. This instinct comes from our tribal past, where moving in unison meant safety. Even strangers align when they walk together. Synchrony builds connections silently. 28. Laughter bonds groups beyond words. When people laugh together, their brains release endorphins that strengthen social ties. Jokes aren't always about humor, they're about unity. Shared laughter is proof of belonging. To laugh together is to declare, we are one. 29. Pain is remembered more vividly than pleasure. The brain exaggerates hurt to prevent repeating mistakes. That's why heartbreaks, failures, or embarrassments linger sharper than joyful moments. Evolution prioritized protection over pleasure. Pain is the teacher, pleasure the reward. 30. Writing by hand cements learning deeper than typing. The act of forming letters activates motor memory, spatial processing, and language systems at once. Typing is faster, but it skips these layers. Handwritten notes lodge knowledge more firmly in the brain. Ink and motion create memory that keys alone cannot. 31. Compliments fuel the brain more than money. Recognition lights up reward circuits faster than financial gain. Being valued satisfies a primal need for belonging and importance. That's why a kind word can energize someone longer than a paycheck. Validation is emotional currency, richer than cash. 32. People remember faces longer than names. Our ancestors needed to recognize allies and threats before language existed. The brain evolved to store visual identity more securely than words. That's why you can recall a classmate's face from decades ago, but forget their name moments after hearing it. Faces are survival markers. Names are human invention. 33. People nod more when music is playing. Background rhythm primes the body to agree and sync. Even subtle beats can influence mood and decision-making. That's why advertisements and political rallies use music strategically. The body says yes before the mind catches up. 34. Boredom can spark breakthroughs. When your brain isn't overloaded with input, it begins to wander and connect unusual dots. This idle drift often produces fresh ideas. That's why solutions sometimes arrive while showering, walking, or staring at a wall. Boredom is creativity's silent engine. 35. Smiling while speaking makes your voice sound warmer. Even over the phone, listeners can hear a smile. The shift in facial muscles changes tone resonance, giving your words friendliness. It's why customer service workers are trained to smile when talking. A curve on the lips bends the sound itself. 36. People eat more when food variety is high. The brain gets bored with sameness and stops signaling hunger as strongly. But when multiple flavors, colors, and textures appear, appetite resets. That's why buffets cause overeating. Variety tricks the stomach into forgetting fullness. 37. Fear spreads through smell. Sweat produced under stress carries chemical signals that others unconsciously detect. Smelling this fear sweat can raise another person's anxiety without them realizing why. Emotions become contagious molecule by molecule. The body whispers danger before words do. 38. People walk taller when they feel powerful. Confidence shifts posture automatically. Shoulders back, head up, strides longer. Even fake power poses can trick the brain into releasing testosterone and lowering stress hormones. The body doesn't just reflect emotion, it shapes it. Posture can create power. 39. Complaining rewires the brain toward negativity. The more often you dwell on problems, the easier it becomes for the brain to default to pessimism. Neurons strengthen connections that are used repeatedly, so negativity becomes habit. That's why gratitude practice feels awkward at first. It's building a new pathway. Thoughts carve grooves in the mind. 40. Music can align heartbeats in groups. When people sing, dance, or even listen together, their pulses synchronize. A choir, a concert crowd, even friends with headphones can beat as one. Music doesn't just move emotion, it unites biology. Rhythm is collective heartbeat. 41. People overestimate how closely others observe them. It's called the spotlight effect. You think everyone notices your flaws, mistakes, or awkwardness. But in truth, most people are too busy worrying about themselves. The imagined spotlight is rarely real. Anxiety makes the stage brighter than it is. 42. People in groups shout louder than alone. Surrounded by others, responsibility feels diluted and inhibition drops. This is why chants, protests, or stadium cheers explode with volume. The crowd emboldens individuals. Together, voices multiply courage. 43. Yawning is contagious because of empathy. When someone nearby yawns, mirror neurons trigger yours. The stronger your empathy, the more likely you'll catch the yawn. It's the brain's way of saying, we're connected. Even a small act like yawning proves emotional synchrony. 44. People overeat when distracted. Watching TV or scrolling while eating reduces awareness of portions. The brain delays sending fullness signals because attention is elsewhere. That's why mindful eating feels so satisfying. You actually notice it. Distraction feeds the stomach more than the mouth. 45. Fear memories burn deeper than joy. Danger activates the amygdala to brand the experience vividly. Missing joy costs little, but missing a threat could kill. That's why traumatic events feel unforgettable while happy ones fade. The brain is a survival machine, not a happiness machine. 46. Writing goals down makes them more likely to happen. When you put your dreams onto paper, the brain shifts them from abstract ideas into concrete intentions. Studies show people who write goals are over 40% more likely to achieve them. The act itself signals commitment and primes the mind to seek opportunities. Ink turns clouds into blueprints. 47. Loneliness harms the body like a disease. Isolation increases stress hormones, weakens the immune system, and shortens lifespan. Humans are wired for tribe, so the absence of connection feels like danger. That's why loneliness doesn't just feel painful, it physically deteriorates the body. Social bonds are as vital as food or water. 48. First impressions form in under 1 second. Before you speak a word, your brain scans posture, facial expressions, and micro movements to judge trustworthiness. These snap judgments evolved for survival but still rule modern life. Once formed, they're hard to undo. We decide safe or unsafe faster than we decide truth. 49. Nostalgia is the brain's natural painkiller. Old songs, scents, or memories trigger dopamine and oxytocin, soothing both emotional and physical pain. That's why people retreat into childhood memories during stress. Nostalgia isn't weakness, it's medicine from the past. The brain heals by remembering. 50. Power reduces empathy. When people feel dominant, brain regions responsible for perspective taking become less active. This can lead to impulsive, insensitive decisions. Authority intoxicates by narrowing focus to self. Power sharpens action but dulls compassion. 51. People eat less slowly when food is warm-colored. Plates in shades of red or orange stimulate appetite in speed eating, while cooler colors like blue suppress it. Restaurants use this psychology and design to influence behavior. The eye seasons food before the tongue tastes it. Color is silent seasoning. 52. People synchronize breathing when emotionally close. Couples, friends, or even groups in deep conversation often fall into the same rhythm unconsciously. Breathing aligns like footsteps in a walk. The body mirrors intimacy quietly. Connection literally changes how we breathe. 53. Memory is strongest when tied to location. The brain creates mental maps, linking information to places. That's why you remember facts better in the room where you learn them. Ancient storytellers use this technique, the memory palace. Space itself becomes a filing cabinet for thought. 54. Curiosity lights up the brain's reward system. When you crave knowledge, dopamine fires as if anticipating a prize. That's why solving puzzles or uncovering secrets feels addictive. Curiosity isn't just interest, it's hunger. The mind chases answers like food. 55. People under stress make riskier choices. Adrenaline narrows thinking, favoring bold moves over cautious ones. Gamblers bet bigger when anxious, and stressed leaders take reckless actions. Urgency tricks the brain into mistaking risk for necessity. Stress bends judgment toward impulse. 56. Faces with symmetry are judged more attractive. The brain interprets balance as health and stability. Even infants stare longer at symmetrical faces. Evolution carved beauty into balance. What feels like taste is ancient survival instinct. 57. People misjudge time when emotional. Fear slows it, making seconds feel like minutes. Joy speeds it up, making hours vanish. Emotion warps perception of time more than clocks ever could. The heart measures moments differently than the watch. 58. Repetition makes lies feel like truth. The more often we hear something, the more familiar and safe it feels. The brain mistakes familiarity for accuracy. That's why propaganda, marketing, and gossip repeat endlessly. Truth isn't always louder. Sometimes it's just repeated. 59. Complaining rewires the brain for negativity. Each time you dwell on problems, you strengthen those neural connections. Soon, the brain defaults to pessimism automatically. Gratitude feels awkward at first because it builds a new path. Thoughts carve grooves that shape mood. 60. People gesture more when discussing abstract ideas. Hands help the brain translate complex thought into something tangible. Waving, shaping, and pointing are tools to anchor meaning. Gestures make ideas stick in both speaker and listener. The body helps the mind speak clearly. 61. Sleep strengthens memory like glue. While you rest, the brain replays and reorganizes the day's experiences. Important details are reinforced, while useless clutter is discarded. That's why pulling all-nighters actually weakens recall. Sleep isn't lost time, it's the mind's filing system. 62. People underestimate the power of small gestures. A smile, a thank you, or holding a door can impact someone's mood for the entire day. These small actions release oxytocin and dopamine, both in the giver and receiver. You may forget the gesture, but they may remember it for years. Kindness is cheap but unforgettable. 63. Multilingual people often shift personality with language. Each tongue carries its own rhythm, culture, and emotional weight. Speaking a second language can make someone more confident, direct, or playful. The brain adjusts not just words, but tone, humor, and even gestures. Language is identity wearing different clothes. 64. Anticipation excites the brain more than reward. Waiting for a surprise or a gift triggers more dopamine than actually receiving it. The what if is often stronger than the what is. That's why countdowns, cliffhangers, and suspense feel addictive. The thrill is in the waiting. 65. People who talk fast seem more persuasive. Listeners often equate speed with confidence and certainty. Even when the content is identical, a quick delivery feels sharper and more intelligent. The brain mistakes fluency for authority. A rapid tongue often convinces where slow words would not. 66. Jealousy activates brain regions tied to physical pain. Seeing someone else take what you desire doesn't just sting emotionally, it lights up pain centers. That's why jealousy feels like being punched in the gut. The brain reads loss of status as injury. Envy is hurt, disguised as anger. 67. People in love experience changes in brain chemistry similar to addiction. Dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin surge when thinking about a partner. That's why early love feels euphoric, obsessive, and sometimes irrational. The brain treats romance like a drug, pulling you back again and again. Love is chemistry with poetry on top. 68. People recall emotional tones more than words. You might forget exactly what someone said, but you'll remember how they made you feel. Emotion leaves deeper grooves than language. That's why harsh tones or kind warmth echo long after details fade. Feeling is the true memory. 69. Group pressure alters perception of truth. Experiments show people will agree with an obviously wrong answer if the group insists. The brain prioritizes belonging over accuracy. Conformity isn't stupidity, it's survival instinct. Being cast out once meant death, so agreement feels safer than truth. 70. People are more likely to believe information paired with visuals. Charts, images, and colors make facts feel more credible, even when they're misleading. The brain trusts sight more than words. That's why propaganda and marketing rely on pictures as much as statements. Seeing feels like believing. 71. Humor diffuses conflict faster than logic. A well-placed joke lowers tension, reduces defensiveness, and shifts perspective. Laughter resets the emotional tone of a conversation. Where logic might fuel argument, humor disarms it. Jokes are weapons of peace. 72. People judge intelligence by tone before content. A calm, steady rhythm makes words sound smarter, regardless of meaning. This is why leaders and speakers train voice control as much as arguments. Delivery shapes perception more than substance. The sound of confidence persuades as much as logic. 73. Stress narrows perception. Adrenaline focuses the brain on immediate threats, but this tunnel vision reduces creativity and problem solving. That's why in emergencies, people remember big details but miss smaller ones. Stress compresses awareness into survival. Calmness expands it again. 74. People mirror not just gestures, but emotions. Spend time around someone anxious, and your body tenses. Sit with someone joyful, and you lighten. Emotional states pass invisibly from person to person. We don't just copy posture, we catch moods. Emotion is contagious. The brain values losses more heavily than gains. Losing $100 feels worse than gaining $100 feels good. This bias, called loss aversion, guides much of human decision-making. Evolution built it to protect survival, but it often makes us overly cautious. Fear of loss outweighs hope of reward. 76. Music influences driving behavior. Fast, loud music makes people drive faster and take sharper risks, while slow or classical tunes reduce speed and tension. The rhythm syncs with heartbeat and movement, often without awareness. That's why playlists can shape road safety more than rules. Your ears steer your hands. 77. People unconsciously copy others' accents. When you spend time with someone, your speech rhythm and tone shift slightly toward theirs. This mimicry builds subconscious rapport and signals friendliness. The brain does it automatically to create connection. Even your voice wants to belong. 78. People are more creative in messy environments. Cluttered rooms encourage unconventional thinking by stimulating the brain with randomness. Too much order signals rules, while chaos whispers freedom. That's why some innovators thrive in controlled disorder. Mess sparks originality. 9. Fear sharpens memory. When something terrifying happens, the amygdala sears the moment into long-term storage. Every sound, smell, and detail stays sharp. That's why people remember accidents, near-death experiences, or shocks vividly years later. Fear is memory's branding iron. 80. People who laugh at themselves are more resilient. Self-directed humor lowers stress, diffuses embarrassment, and signals inner strength. By turning mistakes into jokes, you rob them of their power. It shows confidence rather than weakness. Laughing at yourself is survival through lightness. 81. People judge height as power. Tall individuals are often seen as more authoritative, confident, and leader-like, even when height has nothing to do with skill. This bias is so strong that taller candidates often win elections. The brain equates size with strength. Instinct whispers louder than reason. Everyone thinks they know how people work, but most behavior isn't logical. It's instincts, wiring, and strange patterns buried deep in the brain. These psychology facts reveal truths about yourself and others that most people overlook. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the secrets about how the human mind really works. Here are 15 fascinating insights. 1. Talking to yourself is a sign of focus, not madness. When you put your thoughts into words, the brain doesn't treat them as background. It treats them as commands. That's why athletes, surgeons, and even chess players whisper through steps to sharpen precision. Self-talk creates clarity where silent thought might scatter. Your voice becomes your own coach, and your brain listens. 2. Messy handwriting often signals a quick mind. The faster your brain produces ideas, the harder it is for your hand to keep pace. Scribbles and chaos on the page may look careless, but they are traces of thought moving too quickly for ink. Some of the most creative thinkers leave unreadable notes behind. Disorder on paper is often evidence of brilliance in motion. 3. Negative words stick longer than positive ones. An insult echoes for days, while praise often fades by morning. Evolution trained the brain to remember threats more vividly than rewards, because safety depended on it. Missing kindness never killed anyone, but missing danger could. That's why pain carves deeper grooves into memory than love. 4. Multitasking makes you slower, not faster. Every switch between tasks forces the brain to reset, burning energy and lowering sharpness. The temporary IQ drop is similar to losing a night of sleep. You feel busy, but your clarity erodes. True productivity comes from depth, not division. 5. Doodling anchors memory. When you draw absent-minded shapes during a lecture or meeting, you're not tuning out, you're tuning in. The hand's motion frees cognitive resources, letting the brain absorb more. Studies prove doodlers recall more than silent note-takers. Scribbles are secret memory tools. 6. A racing heart can be mistaken for love. Fear, thrill, or attraction all trigger adrenaline and a pounding pulse. The brain sometimes labels this rush as romance. That's why roller coasters and horror movies make dates feel more intense. Sometimes passion isn't in the heart, it's in the chemistry. 7. Mirroring body language builds trust silently. Crossed arms, tilted heads, matching gestures. These are subconscious signals of connection. When someone mirrors you, they're saying, "I feel safe with you," without words. Rapport grows faster when bodies align. The body confesses what the mouth hides. 8. Quiet people see what others miss. While talkers dominate the space, silence sharpens perception. Quiet minds read patterns, faces, and emotions overlooked by louder voices. Stillness isn't emptiness, it's focus. The silent ones often see deepest. 9. Rejection hurts like physical injury. Being excluded or ignored activates the same neural pathways as a bruise or cut. That's why heartbreak feels heavy in the chest and loneliness aches in the body. To the brain, social loss is survival loss. The wound is invisible, but real. 10. Small lies smooth social life. The average person lies once or twice a day, not with grand deceptions, but with fragile shields like, "I'm fine," or "I'll be there soon." These aren't betrayals, but cushions, meant to reduce conflict and protect feelings. Honesty may be noble, but kindness often wears disguise. 11. Chewing gum sharpens memory and focus. The rhythm of chewing increases blood flow and awakens alertness. Students who chew during exams recall more, and soldiers once used gum to stay sharp under stress. It isn't flavor that helps. It's movement. A small habit can give the brain an edge. 12. Calm in chaos often comes from old scars. People who appear unshaken during storms often learn composure young, under pressure. Their nervous systems were trained by fire. What looks like natural strength is survival forged by struggle. Calmness is sometimes a scar that looks like confidence. 13. Creativity grows when the brain is slightly tired. At night or in exhaustion, mental filters weaken. Wild ideas that would normally be rejected slip through. That's why late-night notes or tired ramblings can spark genius. Fatigue isn't only weakness, it's a gate to originality. 14. Dark humor reveals resilience. Laughing at pain is not cruelty, it's transformation. Those who appreciate dark jokes often cope better with heavy realities. Humor becomes armor, turning wounds into something survivable. To laugh at darkness is to steal its power. 15. Night owls often resist authority. People who thrive in late hours are more likely to question rules and norms. The quiet of night gives them space for rebellion and independent thought. Many innovators and misfits did their best work in darkness. Midnight belongs to those who don't conform. 16. Imagination rewires the brain like real practice. When you picture yourself performing a skill, whether it's playing piano, running a race, or giving a speech, your brain fires many of the same pathways as if you were doing it physically. That's why elite athletes visualize entire games before they start. The brain rehearses, and the body follows. Imagination isn't fantasy, it's training. 17. People with fewer friends often prefer depth over noise. Instead of chasing a crowd, they focus on a handful of meaningful bonds. These friendships are built on loyalty, honesty, and shared understanding, not surface-level chatter. Their smaller circles protect them from betrayal and burnout. For them, quality is worth far more than quantity. 18. Writing down worries before sleep empties the mind. Anxieties that circle endlessly in your head shrink once you trap them on paper. The brain treats the act as resolution, allowing your nervous system to relax. That's why journaling before bed improves sleep. The page becomes a container for fear, and rest finally feels safe. 19. Talking to strangers makes people happier than they expect. Simple exchanges, a hello to the barista, a chat with a neighbor, trigger social reward circuits in the brain. These micro-connections boost mood and lower feelings of isolation. People underestimate their power, but studies show they lift happiness for hours. Joy often hides in the smallest hellos. 20. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces reflection. In conversations, most people rush to fill gaps with noise, but silence isn't empty. It's full of self-awareness. It shines a light on thoughts many prefer to ignore. That's why quiet moments feel so heavy. They turn your focus inward. 21. Swearing often signals honesty more than aggression. Profanity bypasses filters of politeness, allowing raw truth to spill out. People who curse tend to speak with less disguise, showing their real emotions. Rough words can carry more sincerity than carefully polished sentences. Sometimes, honesty sounds messy. 22. Music with lyrics divides attention. Your brain can't fully process your own thoughts while decoding song lyrics. That's why classical, ambient, or lo-fi music boosts concentration, while lyrical songs distract. The language centers overload quickly. Silence sharpens the mind, but pure sound can guide it. 23. Couples who laugh together are more resilient. Inside jokes and shared humor become glue that holds a relationship steady. Laughter reduces stress, smooths conflict, and creates intimacy faster than romance alone. It proves both partners see the world through similar eyes. A relationship with laughter outlasts one without it. 24. Deep empathy feels like carrying someone else's pain. Mirror neurons fire when you see others suffer, activating the same brain regions as if it were your own wound. That's why compassionate people sometimes cry when others cry or wince at another's injury. Empathy isn't imagination, it's biology. To feel for someone is to briefly feel with them. 25. Daydreaming is the brain's hidden problem solver. When your mind wanders, it isn't wasted time. It's rehearsal and experimentation. In those drifting moments, your brain tests scenarios and makes new connections. That's why breakthroughs often happen while walking, showering, or staring out a window. Creativity hides in idle thought. 26. Chasing happiness makes it harder to find. People who obsess over being happy often feel emptier because happiness isn't a goal, it's a side effect. It comes naturally when you live with meaning, growth, and connection. The harder you chase it, the more it escapes. Joy arrives when you stop hunting. 27. Walking speed reveals health and lifespan. Those who walk briskly usually live longer, with stronger hearts and healthier bodies. Doctors use pace as a predictor of vitality because energy shows itself in movement. A slow stride may reflect fatigue, while a quick one signals life force. Every step is a clue about your future. 28. Memory changes every time you recall it. Each time you remember, you rewrite details, influenced by your current mood and perspective. Over time, the memory you hold may look nothing like the original event. The past is not fixed. It's fluid, reshaped by the present. Memory is a story retold, not a film replayed. 29. Overthinking is intelligence turned against itself. Smart minds generate endless options, but too many choices can trap action. Analysis becomes paralysis, freezing progress. The gift of deep thought can transform into the curse of endless loops. A sharp blade cuts both ways. 30. Compliments trigger stronger rewards than money. Being recognized lights up reward centers more quickly than cash. Humans crave validation, belonging, and acknowledgement as much as food or shelter. A sincere compliment can energize someone for days. Recognition is one of the brain's most powerful motivators. 31. Hearing your name grabs your brain instantly. Even in a noisy crowd, the sound of your own name slices through like a spotlight. It activates attention networks tied to identity, forcing you to focus whether you want to or not. That's why people lean in when their name is spoken. It feels personal and powerful. Your name is the sweetest word to your brain. 32. The color blue calms the body and mind. From oceans to skies, blue signals safety and vastness. Looking at it lowers heart rate, reduces stress hormones, and creates a sense of peace. That's why bedrooms, hospitals, and meditation spaces often use it. The brain reads blue as protection. 33. Emotional events burn into memory more than neutral ones. Love, fear, and grief are stored like tattoos, while ordinary days fade quickly. The amygdala ensures emotional intensity sticks for survival reasons. That's why people remember breakups, weddings, or losses decades later, but not what they had for lunch last week. Feeling is memory's ink. 34. Smiling can generate happiness instead of reflecting it. Even a forced smile activates dopamine and serotonin in the brain. Over time, your mood begins to match your expression. This fake it until you feel it effect proves that actions can shape emotions. Sometimes rebellion against sadness begins with a smile. 35. Enjoying solitude signals emotional independence. People who are comfortable alone don't fear silence or absence of company. They recharge from within, relying less on constant validation. Solitude sharpens creativity, resilience, and self-awareness. Being alone is not weakness, it's quiet strength. 36. Anger often hides softer emotions beneath. Explosive rage feels like control, but it usually protects fragility. Beneath it often lies shame, sadness, or fear too vulnerable to show. The roar is a mask to hide the wound. What looks like hostility is often heartbreak disguised. 37. Sharing secrets bonds people more deeply than time. Confessing something private is an exchange of vulnerability. It signals trust and invites intimacy. That's why whispered truths can create closeness in days that casual talk never could in years. Secrets are glue for relationships. 38. Reading fiction grows empathy like exercise for the heart. Each character you live through is a rehearsal for understanding others in real life. Stories teach you to feel perspectives you've never experienced. That's why avid readers often sense emotions others miss. Books are empathy's training ground. Everyone thinks they understand the human mind, but behind every smile, gesture, or silence lies a hidden code. Psychology reveals patterns that most people miss, truths that can change the way you see others and yourself. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the secrets about how your brain really works. Here are 15 fascinating facts you need to know. 1. Talking to yourself sharpens focus. When you verbalize thoughts, your brain treats your own words as commands. Athletes, surgeons, and chess masters all use this trick to improve precision under pressure. It's not madness, it's mastery. Self-talk is your mind acting as both the coach and the player. 2. Messy handwriting often hides a quick mind. The faster the ideas flow, the harder it is for the hand to keep up. Scribbles and uneven letters aren't laziness. They're the traces of thoughts racing ahead of ink. What looks like chaos is often creativity trying to escape too quickly. 3. Negative words stick longer than positive ones. From an evolutionary view, it was more important to remember threats than compliments. That's why a single insult can linger in your mind for days while praise fades quickly. Your brain is wired to protect, not just to please. Pain is remembered louder than kindness. 4. Multitasking lowers your intelligence temporarily. Switching rapidly between tasks forces the brain to reset again and again. The result is a drop in sharpness equal to missing a full night of sleep. You feel busy, but in reality you're draining your clarity. True productivity lies in focus, not juggling. 5. Doodling during conversations improves memory. Idle sketches might look like distraction, but they anchor attention. By occupying the hand, the brain frees itself to lock onto details more deeply. People who doodle often recall more than those who don't. Scribbles are silent memory tools. 6. A racing heartbeat can be mistaken for love. When adrenaline surges, through fear, exercise, or excitement, the brain sometimes labels it as attraction. That's why dates at roller coasters or horror movies feel so intense. Love isn't always in the heart. It can live in the pulse. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's confession of trust. Crossed legs, tilted heads, and similar gestures all show subconscious connection. The body copies what the mind feels. When someone mirrors you, it's an unspoken, "I feel safe with you." Rapport is often built without words. 8. Quiet people often notice more than talkers. While others fill space with noise, silence sharpens observation. The quiet ones pick up on faces, tones, and hidden truths that slip past everyone else. Stillness is not emptiness. It's a lens that sees deeper. 9. Rejection hurts like physical pain. Being excluded lights up the same brain regions as a bruise or cut. That's why heartbreak feels heavy in the chest and loneliness feels crushing. To your nervous system, isolation is danger. The wound is real, even if invisible. 10. Small lies keep the peace. The average person lies once or twice a day, usually with phrases like, "I'm fine," or "I'll be there soon." These aren't betrayals. They're social cushions. Lies can act as shields to soften conflict or protect feelings. Honesty is ideal, but kindness sometimes wears disguise. 11. Chewing gum improves focus and recall. Chewing boosts blood flow to the brain and keeps it awake. Students who chew during exams often perform better, and soldiers once used gum to stay alert in training. It's a simple act that sharpens the mind without caffeine. 12. Calm people in chaos often carry old scars. Their stillness in crisis isn't always natural. It was forged in earlier battles. People who grew up with instability learn to regulate stress under fire. Their calm is survival disguised as composure. What looks like strength is often experience. 13. Creativity thrives when you're slightly tired. Exhaustion lowers mental barriers, allowing unusual ideas to slip through. That's why midnight scribbles sometimes lead to breakthroughs. The tired brain may wander, but in its wandering lies originality. Fatigue is not always weakness, it can be a doorway. 14. Dark humor reveals resilience. Finding laughter in pain isn't cruelty, it's survival. People who laugh at dark jokes often cope better with stress, because humor helps them carry what would otherwise crush them. Jokes in the dark are armor against heaviness. 15. Night owls often resist authority. Those awake long after midnight lean toward independence and rebellion. The quiet of the night gives them freedom to think differently. History is full of rebels and creators who worked while the world slept. The darkness breeds nonconformists. 16. Imagination rewires the brain almost like real practice. When you visualize yourself playing piano, shooting basketballs, or giving a speech, the same neural pathways activate as if you were doing it for real. Elite athletes and performers use this to prepare long before the big moment. The brain rehearses, and the body later follows. Thought itself becomes training. 17. People with fewer friends often choose depth over noise. Instead of chasing a crowd, they focus on a handful of strong, loyal bonds. Their connections run deeper, with more honesty and intimacy than large groups usually allow. Quality outweighs quantity in their world. A small circle can be the strongest shield. 18. Writing down worries before bed clears mental clutter. Fears that swirl in the mind feel smaller once they're trapped on paper. The act signals to the brain that the burden has been stored safely. This frees the nervous system for rest. A page full of scribbles is often the gateway to peaceful sleep. 19. Talking to strangers sparks unexpected joy. Even small exchanges, a smile at a cashier, a short chat on the bus, triggers social satisfaction in the brain. Humans are wired for micro-connections, not just deep ones. These little sparks of contact boost mood for hours. Happiness hides in the ordinary. 20. Silence unsettles people because it demands reflection. Empty space in a conversation feels heavy, but not because it lacks meaning. Silence is a mirror that forces us to hear our own inner noise. Many people rush to fill it with chatter to avoid self-confrontation. The quiet reveals what words try to bury. 21. Swearing can be a strange form of honesty. Profanity often slips out when people stop filtering themselves. In those moments, they reveal raw truth rather than polished answers. Swearing can show sincerity, passion, and unmasked emotion. Rough words often carry the real heart behind them. 22. Music with lyrics competes with your thoughts. Your brain can only process one set of words at a time. That's why instrumental music improves focus, while songs with lyrics distract. The language centers get overloaded, pulling energy away from concentration. Silence or pure sound sharpens productivity. 23. Couples who laugh together are more resilient. Humor acts as glue in relationships, softening conflict and deepening intimacy. Inside jokes become proof that both partners see the world the same way. Shared laughter is a rhythm that keeps the bond alive. A relationship with joy outlives one with silence. 24. Deep empathy feels like borrowed pain. Mirror neurons fire when we see others hurt, lighting up as if we were injured ourselves. That's why empathetic people sometimes flinch when witnessing suffering. Compassion isn't just emotional, it's physical. To feel another's pain is to carry it, if only for a moment. 25. Daydreaming is problem-solving in disguise. When the mind wanders, it isn't idle. It's testing scenarios in the background. Many breakthroughs come not during focused work, but in moments of drifting thought. Creativity thrives in freedom, not just discipline. Spacing out is often strategic thinking in disguise. 26. Chasing happiness directly often backfires. The harder you try to capture joy, the more it slips through your fingers. Happiness resists pursuit because it is a byproduct, not a goal. It comes quietly through meaning, growth, and connection. Seek purpose, and happiness follows. 27. Walking speed predicts vitality. People who naturally move with energy often live longer, healthier lives. A brisk stride reflects strong heart health and a body full of vigor. Walking isn't just transport, it's a mirror of life force. The pace of your steps can hint at the length of your journey. 28. Memory changes every time you recall it. Each act of remembering is also an act of rewriting. Details shift, emotions reshape, and the story morphs into what fits your current self. Over years, your most vivid memories may be far from the truth. The past is not fixed. It's edited every time you revisit it. 29. Overthinking is intelligence turned inward. Sharp minds can slice through problems, but they can also cut themselves. Analysis multiplies possibilities until action feels impossible. The strength of intellect becomes a trap when it spirals too far. A bright mind can be its own worst prison. 30. Compliments fuel the brain more than money. Praise lights up reward pathways even faster than financial gain. Humans crave recognition, validation, and belonging above material wealth. A kind word can energize someone for days. For the brain, acknowledgement is richer than riches. 31. Hearing your name activates the brain instantly. No matter how distracted you are, the sound of your own name cuts through the noise like a spotlight. It awakens attention centers because identity is the deepest trigger of focus. That's why people lean in when you use their name in conversation. It's not just polite, it's powerful psychology. 32. The color blue lowers stress. From oceans to skies, blue has always symbolized safety. Seeing it slows heart rate and eases breathing, making people feel calmer and more secure. That's why hospitals, bedrooms, and even apps use blue in design. The brain reads blue as peace itself. 33. Emotion strengthens memory more than logic. Facts fade, but moments tied to love, fear, or grief burn into the mind like carvings in stone. The amygdala makes sure emotional events are stored long-term for survival. That's why you remember heartbreaks or triumphs years later, but forget what you ate last week. Feeling is memory's ink. 34. Smiling can create happiness instead of reflecting it. When you force a smile, even without feeling joy, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. Slowly, mood follows the body's lead. It shows that action can shape emotion, not just the other way around. Smiling is sometimes a rebellion against sadness. 35. Enjoying solitude means emotional independence. People who are comfortable alone aren't lonely, they're strong. They recharge inwardly, without constant validation from others. Solitude gives them clarity, resilience, and freedom from social noise. Being alone becomes their superpower. 36. Anger usually hides softer wounds. Behind rage often sits sadness, fear, or shame. People roar so no one notices their cracks. Anger feels like armor, but it often protects fragility. When you see fury, know it may be pain in disguise. 37. Sharing secrets builds trust faster than time. Every confession is an offering of vulnerability. To hand someone your hidden truth is to invite them closer. That's why whispered secrets bond people more strongly than casual talk ever could. Trust grows in the shadows. 38. Reading fiction grows empathy like exercise. Living inside a character's mind trains you to understand perspectives outside your own. Each story becomes practice in feeling what others feel. That's why avid readers often pick up on emotions others miss. Stories are empathy's workout. 39. Fatigue makes people easier to influence. When someone is tired, their defenses weaken and resistance softens. They agree more quickly, give in to requests, and accept arguments they'd normally fight. Late-night talks or negotiations often end in compliance. Exhaustion opens the door to persuasion. 40. Forgiveness heals the body as well as the heart. Holding grudges raises stress hormones and weakens the immune system. Letting go lowers blood pressure and eases tension. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing, it means freeing yourself. Release is medicine. Everyone believes they understand people. But the truth is, the mind runs on hidden codes, quirks, instincts, and patterns that surprise even scientists. These aren't random trivia. They are windows into why you think, feel, and act the way you do. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss the psychology facts that reveal how human behavior really works. Here are 15 you'll never forget. 1. Talking to yourself is a sign of control, not madness. When you speak your thoughts out loud, your brain treats the words as instructions. Athletes whisper plays, surgeons talk through steps, and students recite notes because it sharpens focus. It's not embarrassment, it's training. Self-talk is your mind coaching itself to win. 2. Messy handwriting often reveals fast thinking. The hand can't keep up with the speed of thought, so words rush out unevenly. What looks sloppy is actually evidence of ideas moving quicker than ink can flow. Many creative minds leave behind chaotic notes. Disorder on paper often means brilliance in motion. 3. Negative words burn into memory more than praise. A single insult can echo in your head for days, while 10 compliments fade quickly. Evolution taught us to remember threats over rewards. Missing kindness never killed anyone, but missing danger did. That's why pain is louder than love in the brain. 4. Multitasking makes you slower, not faster. Each switch between tasks forces the brain to reset, wasting energy. Studies show this drop in sharpness equals a full night without sleep. You feel productive, but you're spreading yourself thin. Focused depth beats scattered effort every time. 5. Doodling strengthens memory. Sketching shapes during conversations looks like distraction, but it locks details into your mind. The hand's movement frees the brain to absorb more. People who doodle often remember far more than those who don't. Scribbles are memory's secret anchors. 6. A racing heartbeat can be mistaken for love. Fear, excitement, and attraction share the same adrenaline rush. That's why thrill rides or scary movies can make dates feel more romantic. The brain mislabels the pounding chest as passion. Sometimes love is only chemistry disguised as emotion. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's way of saying, "I trust you." When people like each other, they unconsciously copy gestures, posture, and even breathing pace. It's rapport without words. The body admits connection before the mouth does. Mirroring is trust written in silence. 8. Quiet people see what talkers miss. Silence sharpens observation. While others dominate the air, the quiet ones study faces, tones, and hidden truths. They aren't disengaged, they're tuned in deeper. Stillness often holds the sharpest insight. 9. Rejection hurts like a physical wound. Being excluded or ignored activates the same brain regions as pain from injury. That's why heartbreak aches in the chest and loneliness feels crushing. To the nervous system, social loss is survival loss. The wound may be invisible, but it is real. 10. Small lies often protect, not betray. Most people lie once or twice a day, but not with big deceptions. Instead, they soften reality with "I'm fine" or "I'll be there soon." These lies act as cushions to preserve peace. Honesty is noble, but kindness sometimes wears disguise. 11. Chewing gum boosts focus and recall. The steady rhythm of chewing increases blood flow to the brain. Students perform better in exams, and soldiers once used gum to stay sharp in training. It wakes the mind without caffeine. A tiny habit can sharpen memory like a blade. 12. Calm people in chaos often carry old scars. What looks like composure is usually survival learned long ago. Those who grew up in instability train their nervous systems under constant stress. As adults, they seem unshaken, not because they are fearless, but because they've already survived worse. Their calm is forged, not natural. 13. Creativity rises when filters drop. At night or in exhaustion, the brain's guardrails weaken. Strange connections that would normally be dismissed slip through. That's why late scribbles or tired brainstorms sometimes spark genius. Fatigue opens doors logic tries to lock. 14. Dark humor is resilience in disguise. Laughing at painful truths isn't cruelty, it's armor. People who appreciate dark jokes often cope better with stress because humor transforms heaviness into something bearable. Comedy becomes survival. In laughter, pain loses power. 15. Night owls often resist authority. Those who thrive after midnight tend to challenge rules and question control. The quiet darkness gives space for independent thought and rebellion. Many innovators and rebels worked while the world slept. Night isn't just time, it's freedom. 21. Swearing signals honesty more often than rudeness. When people curse, they're usually bypassing the filter of politeness. Their raw emotion comes through unedited. Rough words can carry more sincerity than polite speech. Profanity is often passion in its purest form. 22. Music with lyrics drains focus. Your brain can't fully process both song lyrics and your own thoughts. That's why studying with instrumentals improves concentration, while pop songs pull you away. Language areas in the brain overload easily. Silence or pure sound sharpens clarity. 23. Couples who laugh together build stronger bonds. Shared humor is proof that two people see the world in sync. Inside jokes and silly moments become glue that holds relationships steady. Laughter protects love during storms. A relationship without joy rarely lasts. 24. Deep empathy feels like borrowed pain. Mirror neurons fire as if the hurt were your own. That's why you may flinch when someone else stubs a toe or cry when watching others suffer. Compassion isn't just emotional, it's neurological. To feel for others is to feel with them. 25. Daydreaming is a hidden problem-solving tool. When your mind wanders, it explores new ideas without pressure. This sandbox thinking often sparks breakthroughs. Many creative leaps happen in moments of drifting. Imagination fills gaps logic can't. 26. Chasing happiness makes it harder to find. The more you hunt joy directly, the more it runs. Happiness works like a shadow. It follows meaning, not pursuit. Those who focus on purpose and growth find it without searching. Joy is the side effect of living well. 27. Walking speed reveals vitality. People who stride briskly often live longer and healthier. A fast pace signals strong hearts and energetic bodies. Doctors even use walking speed to predict lifespan. How you walk says more than you think. 28. Memory changes every time it's recalled. Each remembrance rewrites the story slightly. Emotions, current perspective, and context alter details. Over time, what you remember may be far from what happened. Memory is a story, not a recording. 29. Overthinking is intelligence turned against itself. Sharp minds generate endless possibilities, but too many options can trap action. Analysis becomes paralysis, and brilliance becomes burden. The same mind that solves problems can create new ones. 30. Compliments release more dopamine than cash. Validation lights up reward pathways faster than money. Humans crave acknowledgement more than wealth. A single kind word can energize someone for days. Recognition is the brain's richest fuel. 31. Hearing your name hijacks attention instantly. Even in noisy crowds, your brain detects it above all else. Identity is the strongest trigger of focus. That's why names in conversations build rapport quickly. Your name is the sweetest word to your ears. 32. Blue environments calm the mind. Hospitals, bedrooms, and meditation rooms often use blue tones. The color lowers blood pressure and slows heartbeat. The brain reads it as safety, like sky or sea. Blue is peace painted into sight. 33. Emotion cements memory stronger than facts. Moments tied to love, fear, or grief burn into the mind permanently. Neutral events fade quickly. The amygdala ensures emotional experiences stay vivid. Feeling is the glue of memory. 34. Smiling creates happiness instead of reflecting it. A forced smile still triggers dopamine and serotonin release. The body tricks the brain into joy. Over time, mood catches up with action. Sometimes happiness begins with a gesture, not a feeling. 35. Solitude builds emotional independence. Those who enjoy being alone recharge from within. They don't rely on constant validation or noise. Solitude sharpens resilience and creativity. Being alone isn't weakness, it's strength. 36. Anger often hides softer emotions underneath. When someone explodes with rage, it usually isn't pure aggression. It's a mask. Behind the fire often sits a sadness, fear, or shame, too fragile to show. Anger feels powerful because it protects the vulnerable heart beneath. What looks like hostility is often hurt in disguise. 37. Sharing secrets strengthens bonds faster than time. Confession is vulnerability made visible. When you trust someone enough to hand them a piece of your hidden self, the connection deepens instantly. That intimacy can forge closeness in weeks that small talk could never build in years. Secrets are emotional currency, and trading them buys trust. 38. Reading fiction is training for empathy. Each time you step into a character's shoes, you practice living someone else's life. You feel their fears, their hopes, their pain, as if it were your own. This makes readers more sensitive to real people's emotions in daily life. Stories aren't just entertainment. They are simulations of humanity. 39. Fatigue lowers defenses against influence. When you're tired, the brain saves energy by resisting less. You become more agreeable, more compliant, more likely to nod along. That's why late-night conversations or negotiations often end in easy concessions. Exhaustion doesn't just drain your body, it softens your will. 40. Forgiveness heals more than the heart. Carrying grudges floods the body with stress hormones that damage health over time. Blood pressure rises, sleep suffers, and immunity weakens. Letting go isn't weakness, it's medicine. To forgive is to free yourself as much as the other. 41. Faces stick in memory far longer than names. Your brain evolved to recognize allies and threats visually long before language existed. That's why you can recall someone's face after years but forget their name seconds after hearing it. Faces are survival markers. Names are human invention. Vision remembers what words cannot. 42. Avoiding eye contact often signals deep thinking. It doesn't always mean dishonesty or disinterest. Sometimes the brain needs to look away to process information or retrieve memory. Intense focus can make direct gaze impossible. Looking away can mean the mind is busy, not absent. 43. Emotions lead. Logic follows. Most decisions begin with a gut feeling, and only afterward does reasoning step in to justify the choice. We like to believe we're rational, but logic often acts as a lawyer, not the leader. The heart jumps first. The brain writes the explanation later. Emotion is the real compass. 44. Talking quickly creates the illusion of confidence. Speed signals certainty to the listener. Even when the content is the same, rapid speech feels like sharp thinking and strong belief. The brain equates fluency with intelligence. A fast tongue often convinces where slow words would not. 45. Threats capture attention faster than rewards. It was safer for our ancestors to miss an opportunity than to miss a predator. That wiring survives today. Bad news spreads quicker, fear lingers longer, and danger shines brighter in memory than success. The brain still scans for threats before gifts. Caution is carved into survival. 46. Writing down goals turns dreams into plans. When you put your ambitions onto paper, the brain treats them as concrete. You're far more likely to follow through, because the act itself signals commitment. People who record goals achieve them at much higher rates. Ink transforms imagination into intention. 47. Loneliness damages the body like a disease. Isolation raises stress levels, weakens immunity, and even shortens lifespan. The human nervous system is built for tribe. not solitude. Without connection, the body deteriorates along with the spirit. Loneliness doesn't just feel deadly, it is.
Most people think they are in control of their choices, but psychology shows that much of our behavior runs on hidden autopilot. Ancient instincts, small habits, and strange brain shortcuts shape how we act without us noticing. These truths aren't just curiosities. They explain why we think and feel the way we do every day. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the secrets about how the human mind really works. 1. People who cry easily are often more emotionally resilient. Tears release stress hormones from the body and activate comfort signals in the brain. What looks like weakness is actually the nervous system cleansing itself. Crying is proof of strength in processing pain. Emotional release protects mental health long-term. 2. Handshakes change first impressions instantly. A firm but not aggressive grip signals confidence and trustworthiness. Too weak feels insecure. Too strong feels dominant. The brain judges personality in seconds through this simple gesture. Touch speaks louder than introductions. 3. People walk taller when they feel proud or powerful. Body language shifts unconsciously with emotion. Shoulders rise and strides lengthen. Confidence creates posture before words appear. Even pretending to walk tall can trick the brain into feeling stronger. The body becomes the stage for the mind. 4. Music activates more brain regions than language. Listening to rhythm and melody lights up memory, emotion, and motor areas simultaneously. That's why songs can trigger vivid memories or move us to tears. Music is more than sound, it's full brain stimulation. The mind dances even in silence. 5. People are more likely to remember emotionally charged colors. Red signals urgency and danger. Blue signals calm, and yellow sparks alertness. These color emotion links are stored deeply in memory. That's why warnings, brands, and even rituals use color psychology. The eye paints emotions onto the brain. 6. People imitate facial expressions within seconds. Smiles, frowns, and yawns are contagious because mirror neurons fire automatically. Copying builds empathy and social connection. We mimic before we even notice it. The face connects people faster than words. 7. Anticipation of pain hurts more than pain itself. The brain often magnifies fear in waiting more than the actual experience. That's why anxiety before exams, speeches, or injuries feels worse than the event. Anticipation stretches suffering longer than reality does. Fear is pain's shadow. 8. People in groups speak differently than when alone. The presence of others makes voices louder, gestures bigger, and opinions bolder. Social energy changes behavior automatically. That's why crowds feel electrifying and individuals act differently within them. The group rewires the person. 9. Sleep deprivation mimics drunkenness in the brain. Staying awake too long slows reaction time, weakens memory, and lowers judgment. A tired brain functions like one under alcohol influence. That's why rest is essential for sharpness and safety. Sleep isn't luxury, it's fuel. 10. Eye pupils reveal attraction instantly. They dilate when seeing someone desirable, even if you try to hide feelings. Pupils don't lie, because the response is subconscious. That's why eye contact often reveals more than words. Desire shows in the eyes first. 11. People's sense of time changes under emotion. Fear slows it down, joy speeds it up, and boredom stretches it endlessly. The brain warps seconds and minutes depending on feeling. That's why danger feels eternal and happiness feels fleeting. Emotion is the real clock of life. 12. People recall unfinished tasks better than completed ones. This is the Zeigarnik effect. The brain hates open loops. Unfinished business lingers in memory until it's resolved. That's why cliffhangers keep audiences hooked. Completion brings peace, but incompletion brings attention. 13. Laughter reduces physical pain. Endorphins released during laughter act like natural painkillers in the body. That's why groups laughing together feel lighter and even physically stronger. Joy numbs suffering through chemistry. Humor heals more than sadness can harm. 14. People who stare at nature recover faster from stress. Even looking at trees or skies for minutes lowers blood pressure and calms the nervous system. Nature speaks to ancient instincts of safety and shelter. That's why hospital patients with window views heal faster. The mind rests when the earth is visible. 15. People mirror not just gestures, but breathing patterns. When two people feel deeply connected, their breath often sinks without notice. This synchrony creates a stronger sense of trust and closeness. The body silently declares unity. Connection lives in every inhale and exhale. 16. Gratitude reshapes the brain for lasting happiness. When people regularly reflect on things they are thankful for, dopamine and serotonin rise naturally. Over time, the brain learns to notice positives faster than negatives. Gratitude is not just polite, it is training for optimism. Joy becomes habit through appreciation. 17. Stress makes people crave comfort foods. Cortisol pushes the body to seek fast energy, especially sugar and fat. These foods give a quick emotional reward, but lead to crashes later. Stress tricks appetite into feeding survival mode. Cravings are biology, not weakness. 18. People judge trustworthiness in less than 1 second. Facial cues, posture, and micro-expressions are scanned instantly by the brain. This instinct comes from ancient survival needs. Once formed, first impressions are hard to undo. We decide safe or unsafe before words are spoken. 19. Loneliness weakens the immune system. Isolation raises stress hormones that suppress natural defenses. That's why lonely people get sick more often and heal slower. The body interprets disconnection as danger. Humans are wired to survive in tribes, not alone. 20. Music tempo can change physical performance. Fast beats increase stamina and speed during workouts, while slow rhythms improve recovery. The brain synchronizes body movements with external rhythm. That's why athletes use playlists as secret fuel. Sound becomes strength. 21. People who doodle remember more than those who don't. Drawing during conversations keeps the body busy while freeing mental focus. Studies show doodlers retain significantly more information. What looks like distraction is actually deep concentration. Scribbles anchor memory silently. 22. Anger often hides fear or sadness beneath it. Explosive emotions act as armor to protect fragile feelings. Shouting is easier than showing vulnerability. That's why rage often signals hurt that cannot be spoken. Anger is a mask worn by softer pain. 23. Couples who touch more feel closer emotionally. Simple gestures like holding hands or small touches release oxytocin. This hormone strengthens trust and intimacy over time. Physical connection becomes emotional glue. Touch says what words cannot. 24. People overestimate how much others notice them. The spotlight effect makes us feel like flaws are visible to everyone. In reality, most are too busy focusing on themselves. Anxiety creates a false stage around us. The spotlight exists in the mind, not in the room. 25. Curiosity activates the brain's reward system like candy. When we seek knowledge, dopamine fires in anticipation. This makes learning addictive when driven by real interest. Curiosity makes the brain crave answers like food. Discovery is nourishment for the mind. 26. Fear sharpens memory more than joy does. Moments of terror are stored with vivid detail to prevent future danger. Every sound, smell, and image imprints more deeply. Joy fades faster because survival didn't depend on it. Fear is the brain's tattoo artist. 27. People are more generous when in good moods. Positive emotions increase oxytocin and empathy, making us kinder to others. A small act of happiness often ripples outward into giving. That's why laughter spreads generosity. Joy creates generosity without effort. 28. Sleep deprivation reduces empathy. Tired brains struggle to read emotions on faces or voices. This weakens connection and increases conflict. Lack of rest doesn't only hurt memory, it damages compassion. Sleep is fuel for empathy as much as energy. 29. People recall emotional tones longer than details. You might forget exact words, but you remember whether the speaker was kind or harsh. Feelings imprint deeper than sentences. That's why some conversations echo for years. Emotion, not language, is memory's ink. 30. Group chanting synchronizes brainwaves. Singing, Chanting or praying together creates measurable brain alignment. This unity fosters trust, belonging, and emotional power. That's why rituals feel so strong across cultures. Rhythm binds people at the deepest level. 31. Smiling while speaking makes your voice sound warmer. Even if listeners cannot see you, they can hear the difference. Smiles change resonance and add friendliness to tone. That's why customer service agents are trained to smile on calls. The face shapes the sound of the voice. 32. People in messy rooms often think more creatively. Clutter stimulates the brain with randomness and disorder. This encourages unconventional problem-solving and unusual connections. While tidy spaces promote discipline, chaos can unlock originality. Disorder is fuel for invention. 33. Stress narrows focus but kills long-term planning. In emergencies, the brain zooms in on immediate threats. This tunnel vision helps short-term survival but damages creativity and reasoning. That's why panicked people make poor decisions. Calmness opens doors that stress locks shut. 34. Eye contact builds trust but also pressure. Looking directly into someone's eyes signals sincerity and confidence. Too much, however, feels invasive or threatening. Balance creates comfort in social exchanges. The eyes speak truth before words do. 35. People who laugh at themselves recover faster from failure. Self-directed humor lowers stress and softens embarrassment. It signals inner strength, not weakness, to others. By turning mistakes into jokes, you rob them of their power. Laughter transforms shame into resilience. 36. Anticipation often feels better than the reward itself. Waiting for a trip, a gift, or an event triggers stronger dopamine surges than the moment of arrival. The brain enjoys possibility more than completion. That's why countdowns feel so exciting. The thrill hides in expectation. 37. People who sleep enough show stronger emotional control. Rest allows the brain to regulate impulses and stress responses. Without it, small frustrations feel overwhelming. Sleep is more than rest. It is emotional maintenance. Well-rested people manage life's storms with calmer minds. 38. Music influences taste and appetite. Upbeat music can make food seem sweeter, while darker tones make it taste bitter. The brain combines sensory signals into a single experience. That's why restaurants design soundscapes as carefully as menus. Ears season the tongue. 39. People mimic gestures unconsciously to build rapport. Crossed arms, head tilts, or leaning forward often match between two people in sync. This mirroring happens automatically when trust is present. It is the body's silent way of saying, "We connect." The mirror reveals hidden bonds. 40. People under pressure misjudge time. Stress stretches minutes into what feels like hours. Joy, in contrast, makes time fly. The brain's clock bends under emotional weight. Time is measured more by feeling than by seconds. 41. Power changes how people speak and move. Those who feel dominant often lower pitch, slow speech, and take up more space. These subtle shifts project confidence even before words arrive. Authority alters rhythm and presence. Power rewrites body language. 42. People in groups shout louder than when alone. Collective energy dilutes individual inhibition. That's why chants, protests, and concerts feel explosive. The crowd emboldens each voice to go further. Unity multiplies volume. 43. Nostalgia comforts the brain during loneliness. Memories of childhood or past joys release dopamine and oxytocin. These chemicals reduce stress and create warmth. Even when alone, nostalgia is not weakness. It is medicine from memory. The past heals the present. 44. People are more likely to follow positive instructions. Walk slowly works better than don't run, because the brain struggles with negatives. Clear affirmative phrasing directs behavior more effectively. Words guide minds like rails guide trains. Language shapes compliance. 45. People mirror breathing patterns when deeply connected. Friends, couples, or groups in harmony often sync inhaling and exhaling unconsciously. This synchrony fosters closeness and emotional safety. The body proves intimacy without speaking. Breath becomes the language of connection.